and I'm coming to you this morning with some breaking live coverage, breaking news, very sad. First of all, let me say um, we are in 2025. Happy New Year, 2025. All right. Um, January the 1st, 2025. Last night was New Year's. The world was celebrating. The world was bringing in and ushering in a new year, 2025. And sorry to say that as I woke up this morning, I just woke up an hour ago, to sad news in New Orleans, Louisiana, a town that I know very well because I've been there many times. For New Year's Eve, there was a attack on the city, on the streets of Bourbon Street, a well-known street in New Orleans. Um, before we get started, let me just put up my disclaimer. All right. Um, put up my disclaimer, and I do pray for all the families involved, all the families um, that have loved ones that was unalive during this tragic event, and all the families that have people that are injured. Understand there is 10 people unalived, and there is up to 35 or more people that are injured. I do pray for those families. My prayers go out to them. And let me just get the house rules in order. All right. I'm going to get the house rules in order first, and then I'll welcome my guests in the chat. Okay. To keep the channel um, monitor in the algorithm, can I have everybody go ahead and hit that like button? Please hit that like button coming in because this will be an ongoing coverage throughout the day. And subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed. And thank you for doing those things. Now we're going to go ahead and get on with the matter at hand. We just celebrated a new year, 2025. And then in New Orleans, Louisiana, there was tragedy unfolding on New Year's Eve, crowded on Bourbon Street. Bourbon Street never sleeps. Shops and bars are open 24 hours a day. And we have a mad person that decided to drive his truck around the barricades into the crowd and plow down people, innocent people that are having fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put the video on. But before I put that video on, let me welcome Sweet Tea. Thank you, Sweet Tea, for being here. Welcome for being here. Sweet Tea, um, before I put the video on, if you just want to come up and just say Happy New Year's or just say anything, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes just to say anything. Then I'll drop you back down and we're going to play this ongoing coverage for the rest of today. So that means it won't be any breaks. It's just going to play throughout the day. But if you want to come up and say Happy New Year's or 2025 and just say how you feel, then I'll drop you back down. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes just to say anything that you would like. And then we're going to drop back down and let the ongoing coverage continue for the rest of today. All right. I'll just drop it. If you want to just say, come up and just say how you feel about today. I won't be having anybody to stay because this would just be playing throughout the day, live coverage. I did drop the thumbnail of True Tea if you just want to come up and say Happy New Year's, Happy 2025, or say any anything to anybody out there about what's going how you feel about what just happened? Okay, thank you, Sweet Tea, for coming up. The floor is yours.
You're welcome, Pinky. Happy New Year, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come up. And I'm just blessed to see another year, as we all should be. Just thank God for that. And I'm sorry to hear about what happened in New Orleans. This is my first. This is my first time hearing of that incident, but I thank you for uh, giving us this breaking news, and I'm can't wait to listen to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
happy 2025 to you. And we had a great time last night.
We did.
And sorry, while we was having a great time on our live, this was unfolding in New Orleans
Oh wow.
during New Year's Eve. The person decided to go around the barricades in his truck just to plow people down.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'll be praying for them. I drop back down and just listen and look at.
Okay. All
So
right. Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Pinky.
And if
Okay,
you have anything that you want to say in between, just put it in the chat. And if you need to come up and say anything, I'll bring you up and you can drop back down. I'll do that throughout the day to people.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
drop back down and listen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too, Pinky.
Okay.
Bye bye.
All right. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and put this on. What's going on? It is sad. I'm going to be coming the first live coverage. We're going to do NBC News is breaking. The FBI is investigating the New Orleans car attack as act of terrorism. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that up first. We're going to be going through with several different coverages of it, of what's going on. And so the credit, that information will be down in my description box. Okay, here we go, guys. Let me do one thing first. I got it muted. I got to unmute.
As we continue to do our reporting and pour through this.
Tom, first off, excellent reporting, because for our viewers who are just turning in, you gave us 4 really big new nuggets that really changed the landscape of what we've been seeing. You talked about the flag, ISIS flag. 2 potential IEDs. 3, more details from the suspect. We now know he's 42-year-old US-born citizen born in Texas. And 4, you mentioned that the death toll was expected to rise. On that note, Tom, and I want to go back to that flag that we're looking at here, attached to the hitch of the bed of that truck there. That was really striking to me, because I also saw when that looked at that photo, those 4 holes in the windshield, the back windshield there, that appear to be, gunshot bullet holes that may have entered the vehicle. When you see that flag, does that give us any indication about whether or not he was working alone, or if he had known associates? And 2, Tom, do we have any, now that we have this name, do we have any indication of whether or not he'd had previous arrests, misdemeanors, felonies, anything in his record?
That's something that we're still pouring through with respect to what is referred to in law enforcement circles as suspect pedigree. Where did they come from? What's their date of birth? Do they have any active lawsuits for or against them? Do they have any sort of criminal history? That's information that we're still in the process of going through, and we'd like to do a lot of verification to get to that point. You're seeing a video of the immediate aftermath. There were, according to a video, I think that we're hopefully going to be able to show folks shortly, that's just been forwarded to me from our affiliate in New Orleans. Basically, this stops, and then there's a quick pause or two, and then a tremendous exchange of gunfire. So the bullet holes that you're seeing on the back of that car could have come from police. They could have come from police firing from the front to the back. They could have been, it's just the picture's not clear enough, could have been shots fired from the back to the front. We are told that investigators are looking into whether or not he was firing as he was driving this vehicle, that he may have been firing a gun while driving the vehicle. That's something they're looking into. We don't have that confirmed. That's going to require, obviously, a lot of work from an evidence standpoint. Clearly, some of that probably based off of eyewitnesses. We'll see if that turns out to be true, but they're at least looking into it. This idea, by the way, of flying an ISIS flag on the back of a pickup truck is something that we've seen before. Sayfullo Saipov, back in October of 2017 on Halloween, drove down the Upper West Side Highway here in New York City and conducted a terrorist attack in the name of ISIS, killing 8, injuring over a dozen. He had talked about, according to court records, the idea of actually flying an ISIS flag from the back of his truck, coincidentally also a rented pickup truck, that from a major retailer. But he talked about doing that, but thought it would attract too much attention and that the NYPD would see that and immediately try to stop him. Obviously, that's something that would certainly grab the attention of law enforcement, frankly, anybody. That flag is kind of ubiquitous in our society. So that is something that we've seen, talked about before, and that is something obviously that is of interest. The idea of driving through a crowd in vehicle ramming attacks is something that we've seen over the last decade. It's talked about in almost every single major propaganda that comes out from various terrorist organizations. And as we recently reported on NBC News Now, and a story I believe we talked about was the idea of how terrorist organizations are now using AI to produce terrorist propaganda because it allows them to be anonymous. You have the face and the voice of it being a computer somewhere instead of being an actual person, makes it more difficult for investigators to try to determine who is behind that propaganda. So this is an evolving landscape, a reminder that as we've been reporting here at NBC News for the past 9 months, the FBI has been especially concerned about the volume of terrorism investigations and attacks and thwarted attacks. There's been a number of them. The Taylor Swift concert in Austria, the FBI and the US is warning to Russian security agencies about what turned out to be a deadly attack at the Crocus concert hall there. There were several other investigations, including an election day plot here in the United States that was disrupted, in a plot involving a relative of that suspect in France that was disrupted, as well as a number of potential incidents, not all necessarily tied to terrorism, that were thwarted before the Olympics. It's been an incredibly busy year in this landscape. It is at a tempo that we have not seen before, at least not since 2014, based on the officials that work in this space that I talked to. And so this is very real and has been a real genuine threat here, I would say, for the past year of this exact type of incident. The big question going forward is, how was it possible, knowing that all the information I just shared with you is information that was public prior to this event? How was it possible that a truck was able to drive down Bourbon Street in the early morning hours on New Year's Eve, when obviously there would be a lot of people out? There are a lot of people out in that street on a Tuesday in August, let alone at this time of the year. And as we saw here in New York City last night, it would not have been possible for this attack to take place. They fill up sanitation trucks with sand, and good luck to anybody trying to get through that. So obviously serious questions will need to be asked of New Orleans authorities. Was it an issue with overtime, and did politicians not allow those type of protections go in? Was it a failure on the police department? Was it a combination of things, like it usually is? Time will tell.
Yeah. Tom, can I, before we let you go, can I just ask one question about the victims in all this, the people who were, the people who've died, the people who are still hurt and in hospitals? Because you said when we came to you that the death toll has risen, which is the worst news we could imagine. Is this because many of the injuries are very severe and we're finding out that they're passing away at the hospital?
That's exactly right. The injuries here were horrific in nature. We're told, I don't think I need, out of respect to the victims, to get into specific details that we're being told and hearing, but we do expect the next time that we get a briefing from city officials for that death toll to rise. It's not because of any lack of extreme effort by the medical community. It's just injuries are injuries, and when you're hit with a truck at that high rate of speed, and if this idea that he was in fact firing out of the truck at that time, obviously that would have added additional problems for the people that were in that crowd. Is something that law enforcement's tracking down. It's horrific, it's horrible, and obviously is going to be continued sad news, not only for the New Orleans community, but given the fact this attracts people from all over the country, we'll have to wait and see if other communities are impacted as well.
Yeah, keeping all those families in our thoughts here too. Tom Winter for us. Tom, thank you for all the reporting.
It is just after 1:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and this is what we know thus far about that deadly truck ramming attack in New Orleans that killed at least 10 people and left more than 30 others injured. We are learning more also right now about that suspect.
Yeah, if you're just joining us now, senior law enforcement officials tell NBC News that the suspect has been identified. He is 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, who is now deceased. The FBI just confirming moments ago that he is a U.S. citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck that appears to have been rented, and that an ISIS flag was found on that vehicle that rammed into the Bourbon Street crowd. You see it there in the picture on the back of the tailgate. The FBI says they are working to understand whether the suspect had any associations with terrorist organizations.
Now, in half an hour, officials are set to update us on the investigation at a news press conference. Police have previously said that the suspect intentionally carried out this attack and tried to run over as many victims as he could. Police saying he was hell-bent on creating carnage. We are told that he allegedly opened fire on police and shot 2 officers after he crashed into that crowd.
Police are also trying to determine if he was firing a long gun into the crowd while he was running people over. We're told the FBI is investigating this, and we've said this again and again, as an act of terrorism.
Our NBC affiliate WDSU spoke to 2 eyewitnesses who said that they saw the moment the pickup truck plowed into a crowd of pedestrians. Take a listen to what they said.
We were coming through the intersection, and it all just happened so quickly. But the guy in the pickup truck just punched the gas and mowed over the barricade and hit a pedicab passengers. And there were just bodies and the screams. I mean, you can't think about, unhear that. It was chaos and very, very scary.
When you saw the car, did you think anything of it at first, or did
you? No, it was the most bizarre thing, like something that you, like the least expected thing, I don't even know how he managed to maneuver that with the amount of traffic and people that were still out.
Bumper to bumper. There were people everywhere.
You said there was a lot of people?
Tons of people.
Tons of people. And cops everywhere.
The cops
there
were
were
on the corner
cops
when it ran through
everywhere.
the barricade. They were standing right there when it happened.
And when you're talking about barricade, are you talking about like those, like the metal poles right there?
Was that better?
Yep.
Chilling, black man.
So did you see at all any of the ballards or anything like that pop up?
It was just like debris and everything, and then people. It was unreal. Just total chaos. Total chaos.
What was it? The sounds?
A huge impact. It almost sounded like a gunshot. I actually looked, and maybe we did hear that too, knowing now that the guy had ended up shooting those 2 police officers. But I remember the screeching and him gunning the car and the impact and the screams. Like I said, the screams of those girls. Yeah. I don't know that I'll be able to forget that.
I'm so sorry you guys had to go through that. You had mentioned inside that when he barricaded through, it was super loud.
Yeah, it was. It was very, very loud. It just was this huge boom.
Crunching
and crunch. Yeah. And then just the people yelling.
And you guys had just walked right across the street. Where were you guys at?
We had come from about 2 blocks down from a parking garage, the Roosevelt parking garage, and we're coming through this intersection right here on Bourbon when it happened.
From what I recall, he was in this lane and just took a hard right and punched it, is what it seemed to be like. So I don't know how he did it, because there were all the cars. It was literally 3 or 4. It's 3 lane, but there was also people parked over on the side. So it was just hectic and chaotic. I don't know how he was able to get through the barricade or whatever, get enough speed.
And there is multiple pedicab drivers and carts there. And fortunately, one of the girls that he hit her cart, she didn't have passengers, but it was the other gentleman who had passengers. That's what he hit, and they were just all on the ground. I mean,
I was just to say, so you guys saw this happen. What did you guys do next?
it was kind of like a surreal moment. And my husband, he just grabbed me and he was like, let's go, let's go, get out, let's get out of here. It was so surreal, I think we did kind of go into that fight or flight mode and chose flight in that instance, to get ourselves out of here and safe.
Oh, just devastating to hear these accounts that we're getting. Let's bring in Tim Gallagher, former FBI special agent in charge of the Newark, New Jersey office, is with us now. Tim, the FBI got involved very early on. We heard about this, in the early mornings this morning. It's being investigated as a terror attack. What key pieces of evidence are you focused on? We've got some new reporting that I don't know if you heard from Tom Winter just a short time ago. Were you able to hear that? And can you talk about what, if you were in charge at this moment, what you'd be focused on?
Yes, thanks for having me. I heard what Tom had to say before, those key pieces of evidence. Obviously, the indicator of ISIS involvement from the flag, you can be drilling down on, who has he been associated with, but, the name itself, that's the key piece of evidence here. We're looking to see, build out his network. Who is he in contact with domestically? Who is he in contact with internationally? Potentially, are there other plots afoot out there that he may have been a part of? That's job one, looking to nail down, is there anything else out there plot-wise that needs to be disrupted immediately? Getting legal process for all of his devices, for all of his accounts, looking to see who he was communicating with, who was funding him. These are all things that the FBI is doing with their partners as we speak.
It's interesting, Tim. I'm listening to the things you're describing, and it's what, we heard Tom's describe earlier as criminal pedigree, right? Sort of, we were talking about, were there any past criminal activities or misdemeanors, felonies, arrests, perhaps, in this person's profile? When you talk about the things that you collect, what is unique about what you collect from the digital footprint that is different from the physical evidence that investigators will be collecting on the scene?
Sure. Yeah. From the digital footprint of his, you're looking to see what sites has he been going to, what was he looking to purchase, was he doing surveillance online as to Bourbon Street, or was he going in person down there? Maybe his devices would tell you that his cell phone was pinging in that area a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the things that you'd be looking for. But you're drilling down to see, obviously there's surveillance done. He just didn't wake up and decide, I'm going to go launch this attack on Bourbon Street. There was research done in advance. And how was he doing that? And how did he know that this particular spot, could be vulnerable in the situation for what we're hearing about the bollards?
Should we be paying close attention? I assume law enforcement will be paying close attention to what Tom reported about IEDs, improvised explosive devices. I think Tom said there may have been one inside the truck, and then he mentioned potentially a couple more. How would you be handling that?
Right. Yeah. It's not. It's one thing that you have IEDs. It's another thing where they were. Right. So what's in his vehicle? Obviously, that ties directly to him. But if they found other suspicious packages, which may in fact be IEDs, are you looking to pull every piece of camera footage that you can to see where was that? When was that item left? Who left it there? Can we identify who left it there? Was it a bag? Or was it an actual potential device? Because that's a key piece of evidence here. Was it isolated to the vehicle, to the small arm fire, into that IED, or was there placement in advance? Or would there be other people? And is there a continuing danger to public safety in New Orleans as we speak?
Speaking of that public safety, Tim, the Sugar Bowl is still expected to take place tonight. We heard the superintendent basically assure people that the city was prepared for this event, still welcoming people to her city. But, from all the experience you have, if this were your family sitting there in New Orleans, preparing to go to a game like this, what would you advise? What can people take from this, and what can they do in sort of preparation for the hours that are coming, the hours ahead?
Right. Don't panic. If you see something, say something. You constantly hear that, but this is going to be one of the safest places in the planet tonight. That facility itself, the Sugar Bowl. But like when we talk about the perimeter, the outer perimeter, there could be some potential soft targets out there that if there is a continuing threat to public safety, that could be targets. So that's where if you're out there, if you see something that doesn't look right, obviously report it to law enforcement and do so immediately.
All right. Our thanks to Tim. We appreciate your analysis and you're spending your time with us on this very busy day.
Thank you for having me on.
Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst and former chief of police of the Seattle Police Department, Carmen Best, is with us. Carmen, we speak often, unfortunately, when there's a disaster, right? When something horrific like this happens. We were just talking with our previous guest about tonight. Given your experience as a chief of police, what is that police department in New Orleans doing right now?
Well, I have to say, Kate, that I agree with Tim wholeheartedly that it's probably going to be one of the safest venues in the city of New Orleans this evening, considering what happened over the course of the last day. There will be increased officer presence, increased vigilance at all of the stations. As many cars will be out, many police cars. They'll be working with the federal partners as well to have increased personnel on the street, reviewing all of their plans, making sure they reinforce any potentially softer targets, and making sure that it is absolutely as safe as possible. I know their chief and the superintendent, that is, Ann Kirkpatrick. She's a well-experienced police chief, has been through other types of significant events, and she will make sure that everyone is all hands on deck.
And what about other cities, Chief Best? I mean, what should people who are watching this, who aren't in New Orleans, who aren't from New Orleans, but who are watching this, anticipating all the other New Year's Day celebrations that are happening across the country, what should they take from this? What should they do in preparation? What should they be aware of?
Well, I can assure you, every time something like this happens, even though all the precautions are being taken in advance, when something like this happens, everyone goes over their plans again. They start maybe upping some of their resources at certain sites. They're worried about copycats and people who may try to simulate or redo an event like this. So all of that affects everyone in law enforcement. And they're asking the public, they use crowdsourcing, ask the public to stay alert. As was said earlier, if you see something, say something. Nothing is too small or insignificant to report when we're trying to keep everyone safe.
All right, Carmen Best, really great to have your expertise with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's go now to NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, who has been following all of these developments for us from the moment that they broke. Tom, you've been working your sources. You had several updates for us just in the past hour, but specifically, I wanted to ask about those potential IEDs. You mentioned there was 2. Did you say there was a possible 3rd, perhaps located in or near that white truck allegedly belonging to the suspect?
Yeah, so our reporting on this is, one, the FBI is out with a statement saying, look, we found weapons in a possible IED in the vehicle. So what does that actually mean? So we've seen this a couple of times at incidents this year and in many other incidents in the past. Somebody might have something in their truck of fuel mixed with something else and wires coming out of it. And ultimately, when the FBI reviews it, they're like, there's no way this could have gone off, but maybe this person believed that it could have been an explosive device. On the other hand, as we saw with the Boston Marathon bombing attack, that those 2 individuals, the Tsarnaev brothers, Tamerlan and Zohar Tsarnaev, they actually did have active and usable pipe bombs and other explosive devices with them that they actually used, particularly in their shootout with police officers initially from the Watertown Police Departments and then Watertown Police Department in Massachusetts, and then other law enforcement agencies. So they want to make sure there's 3 concerns. 1, first off, you don't want anybody else to get hurt. 2, you've got to find a way to render that device safe if you think it could explode. And 3, you need to find a way to actually secure the evidence. So, for instance, here in New York City, we had a couple of bombing attacks that go back several years. One was in Chelsea. There was a bombing in New Jersey at a road race, and then there was a bombing in Chelsea. There was a 3rd device that was found. And what the NYPD did is they put that inside a pressurized containment vessel. That's something that they can actually tow to the scene, and a lot of law enforcement agencies, major ones, have these. They can put whatever suspected device they think exists into that, seal it, and then take it to a facility where they can do a controlled detonation. And if it goes off along the way, it's all contained within that vehicle. But most importantly, Morgan, it's contained in the vehicle from an evidence standpoint. So it's contained within that vessel. And they have all of the parts. And so maybe there's a fingerprint, maybe there's a piece of DNA or a component, a particular component that would lead investigators along the right path. Now, in this particular instance, they're not looking for anybody because the person that they might be looking for is dead on the street in New Orleans. We've seen photographs of that. So that's not what they're looking for. But did this individual have any help? And they haven't said one way or the other whether they're looking for anybody, at least publicly at this point. So they want to say, did somebody else help make these devices? Should we be looking for another person? And then particularly in light of the security situation that you were just talking to Tim about, that's something that they would want to find out. So that's a little bit of what is going on here. You're looking at some of the video, unfortunately, of the aftermath of this incident. But that's one of the things that they're looking for. Then to further answer your question, there are at least two other potential IEDs that they're looking for. I put an asterisk on this because, as you can imagine, you're looking at the chaos that occurred after this happened. What would you do if you were there? You would drop your bag, you would just run. You want to get out of there as fast as possible. So did somebody leave behind a cooler? Did they leave behind a backpack? And they're going to have to look at those. Sometimes they go through that very quickly at great personal risk to the bomb squad of whatever city it might be in. Once you've stopped this incident, you might want to take your time. And again, it goes back to also collecting evidence. So that's what's going on there.
And Tom, just to go back to what you reported a short time ago, you reported that this is a U.S. citizen. The suspect is a U.S. citizen born in Texas. Do we have any more information about what part of Texas, where he might be from, whether he has any criminal record, anything like that?
Still going through the background of this individual, Shamsud Din Jabbar from Texas. He's 42 years old, born in late October 1982. This individual, their background, we're going through that right now. Any recent travel, that's something that federal law enforcement agencies are actively working on. We can report that, and we'll take a look into that. I want to be clear on something. It has been reported that this individual passed through a border location several days ago. We are being told that that information is not accurate, but we're continuing to do reporting on it. I just want folks to, you might be seeing something on Twitter, and then what is this guy talking about? And so I just wanted to kind of see if we could square those two things. At the moment, we're not being told that this individual had any recent southern border crossings in the last several days, but that I want to remind people that this vehicle is not a vehicle that he owns. It's owned by another person that was apparently put on an online car service where you can rent out your car, kind of like an Airbnb for cars. And so if that's the case, it's possible this vehicle did recently transit the southern border with Mexico, but it may not have been that this person, the person responsible for this attack, was inside of it. So I hope that provides a little bit of clarity. But I'll tell you that this is all very fluid and has been moving throughout the day.
No, for sure. And Tom, it might be worth mentioning that all of us at NBC News take great pride in the way that we report facts and the way that we try to verify things and explain exactly. We're transparent about what we know and what we don't know. And that's what Tom has just presented. Tom, thank you so much.
Meanwhile, as federal law enforcement investigates that New Orleans attack, President Biden is offering his condolences to the victims as well as their families. In fact, he told reporters just earlier today that he is being continually briefed. However, he is not offering any new details about the investigation at this point. NBC News White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is following everything for us from West Palm Beach, Florida, right there near Mar-a-Lago. Gabe, this is interesting because we heard from the president when, of course, reporters were sort of initially getting inklings of what was happening before we officially were reporting the suspect's name. There was lots of questions about who he was, where he was from, was in fact he a domestic? We know that now he was born in Texas. What has the president said in terms of his plans in reacting to this incident for the rest of the day?
Well, Morgan, he said that his reaction was one of anger and frustration. But what you described is something that happens in many instances like this, where that information is so fluid, as Tom was describing. The White House and the president are very cautious about what information they release early on in the investigation. They don't want to get in the way of local, state, and federal authorities. So the president declined to comment on details of the suspect's origin. He was asked repeatedly about that. But one thing that the president did say is that he would have more to say, and that he wanted to say more, but he was waiting on authorities to give out more information. So at that point, we presumably do expect to hear from him at some point later today. He started the day in Wilmington, Delaware. That's where he rung in the new year. And then he did travel to Camp David. And as we heard from the White House, he has been briefed continually throughout the day by senior FBI and Department of Homeland Security officials. Also this morning, we understand that the president did speak directly with the mayor of New Orleans and pledged full federal support. So again, the White House deferring at this point to federal, state, and local authorities. But we do expect to hear from the president at some point based on his comments to reporters at the tarmac as he boarded Air Force One. Kate Morgan.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez for us. Gabe, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Trump, as Gabe mentioned, has also been weighing in and what he's saying and what type of communication is there between the two presidents that we're learning now as that's unfolding as we speak.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, you know, that we find ourselves on New Year's Day of 19 days
Right,
from today,
exactly.
right, is the
transition.
inauguration of a new president. And joining us now, NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian is with us. Yasmin, there's a lot of video circulating on social media from this morning. Can you help us understand? We've shown some of it, but help us understand what we're seeing.
Yeah, our social media team here at NBC News has been going through all this video vigorously over the last couple of hours or so, guys. And as you can imagine, right, 3 o'clock in the morning, Bourbon Street, New Orleans, the first couple of hours of 2025, a lot of folks celebrating that moment in life, looking forward to the new year, but instead catching what took place at 3 o'clock in the morning, killing 10 people, likely more, 30 plus victims here on Bourbon Street. And the video is just horrifying to see. But before we kind of go through some of this video that you're seeing on your screen now, guys, I want to take a listen to a witness account, someone who heard what was going on Bourbon Street in their hotel room. Let's take a listen to April McGee and what she had to say about the TikTok of that evening. And then we'll go through some of the video that we've been watching.
I saw lots of fireworks, and then I laid down and I was watching them from my bed, and I heard maybe they were going off for quite some time. They didn't stop at midnight. So I thought maybe it was like the final, whatever you call it, the grand finale. It was just loud, something really loud. And then I heard more fireworks. I don't know what it was, but apparently it wasn't fireworks.
Back, guys, I want to go back to the video you were just. So as we're here in April there, I want to bring up the video, guys, that we were just showing before we went to April. And that was video of this individual you see approaching a dead body on the ground there. And one of the reasons why they take their camera away or their phone away from the scene to run, and you see the individual in the blue shirt running, is because you actually hear what appears to be gunshots. Now, we have heard from Tom Winter throughout the morning that they are investigating the possibility that the suspect, who is now dead, and we have now identified as a 42-year-old male U.S. citizen from Texas, had exchanged gunfire with police officers after ramming his car into individuals on Bourbon Street. I wonder if that is what we are hearing in that video there, if in fact that is gunshots. You see people kind of taking cover there. Now, when you're looking at this image here, it's of the white truck. This appears to be the truck of the suspect. You see the suspect then lying on the ground as well to the left of the truck. There is a photo, if we can bring this up, guys, from our control room, of the actual truck, the white pickup truck with a flag in the back of the truck. You see it there. Now, we have talked about and identified, now our sources have identified the fact that this was an ISIS-inspired attack. Now, let's remind folks, this is a male U.S. citizen born here in the United States from Texas, inspired by ISIS. And Tom Winter has talked about this many times, but I think it's important to reiterate. This type of attack is certainly something that has happened before from ISIS, and is certainly par the course for actions taken by ISIS. If you remember, the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, was killed back in 2019 under the first Trump administration. But just because a leader of a terrorist organization like ISIS is killed doesn't necessarily mean you don't have people still following in the footsteps of the things they want to necessarily carry out. You're seeing here major police presence. I mean, imagine this, right? New Year's Eve, New Orleans, before the Sugar Bowl, just a couple of hours before the Sugar Bowl to take place tonight, the incredible amount of police presence already on the ground. And then now here, the aftermath of what appeared to be just a horrific attack on Bourbon Street overnight, guys, in New Orleans. And the video is continuing to pour in, really giving us a picture into the TikTok of this event. These people just celebrating. I mean, look at this video here, guys, right? An individual standing on their balcony, wanting to celebrate the first couple hours of 2025. And instead, you see the blurred images there. Those are dead bodies on the ground. Those are individuals with families, with mothers, with fathers, with sisters, with brothers, possibly with children that will no longer see the rest of this year or the rest of their life because their life was taken last night in the first couple of hours of 2025. Just a horrific, horrific moment in this nation's history, and certainly for the city of New Orleans, when everybody should be celebrating. And in fact, instead, they are mourning.
And again, to our viewers, we just need to describe the pall that has fallen over New Orleans as people are reacting to this incident. We are still awaiting an update on those victims, dozens who were taken to local area hospitals. We do not yet know what condition those victims are in. We do know that there were 2 police officers who were shot, and they are currently in stable condition. And we are going to continue monitoring those user-generated content, those videos that are coming in from eyewitness accounts all up and down Bourbon Street and Canal, which happened at 3:15 this morning, local time. Our thanks to Yasmin Vasugia.
It is 2 p.m. right now on the East Coast. It's 11 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Kate Snow.
I'm Morgan Radford. We are continuing our coverage of the breaking news in New Orleans, a horrific, deadly trunk attack now being investigated as an act of terrorism.
We are expecting an update from police and local officials in New Orleans any moment now. As soon as that happens, we will bring it to you live. Here is what we know in the meantime right now. The attack happened early this morning, just after 3 a.m., around 3 a.m. on the city's iconic Bourbon Street in the French Quarter. Police say a driver intentionally rammed his pickup truck into crowds celebrating the new year. At least 10 people are dead. We've been told to expect that there may be more fatalities, and more than 30 others are hurt. The FBI has identified the suspect as 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar. He is a U.S. citizen born in Texas. The FBI says he was killed in a shootout with police.
The Bureau also says an ISIS flag and other weapons were found inside that truck. The New Orleans Police Superintendent says the driver was hell-bent on creating carnage. A warning to our viewers, the images we are about to show you, they are disturbing. Videos posted to social media since this morning show bodies there, blurred, laying in the street. We have blurred parts of that clip as to not further disturb our viewers. But what you are seeing are bodies laying inert, prostrate there on Bourbon Street. You can see people rushing to render aid. Others are running shortly after. There was what sounded to be gunfire, which are consistent to the reports and reporting since 3:15 this morning.
And Morgan, we just got an update, a sad update, that they now say 15 people have died in this attack. Not 10, but 15 people have lost their lives. We think of those families.
Many of whom were running into nightclubs for safety and who have described the chaos when they went back outside. Let's take a listen.
And there were just bodies and the screams. I mean, you can't think about, unhear that. It was chaos.
It just kept going. Like every eye shot, body. It was unbelievable. It was only could be referenced to a movie.
It was just loud, something really loud. And then I heard more fireworks. I don't know what it was, but apparently it wasn't fireworks. This is my first time hearing it. It'll probably be my last.
Not fireworks. Let's go ahead and bring in NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, who has been following this really every development since the beginning. Tom, you had several recent developments for us in the past few minutes, really. I want to specifically talk about that black ISIS flag that we now know is hitched to the bed of that truck. Does that give us any indication about whether or not this was an actor who was acting alone or whether there were known associates?
Yeah, and I think we're about to get to this press conference shortly with New Orleans officials. Actually, maybe I'll pause here as we wait to get them started, but they should be starting shortly. We have heard, according to a senior U.S. law enforcement official briefed on the investigation, that unfortunately, as you mentioned, the death toll has risen to 15. We expect an update from the FBI here that they found an apparent ISIS flag in or on this vehicle, and there is an active search for potentially additional devices in that area, and that they believe that there is a possible improvised explosive device contained within that vehicle, as well as other weapons that are found. So we do expect to get more. We do expect preliminarily the numbers can change here. If there's ever a time that I've hoped to be wrong, it's on the death toll, but we do hear that perhaps as many as 15 have died, according to people that have been briefed on this investigation. As we've been speaking throughout the day here since really early this morning on NBC News, the injuries here have been truly horrific. And that's the information that we've been hearing and the information we've been hearing from the scene.
And Tom, this press conference that we're waiting for right now, and we'll go to it as soon as they're organized and ready to go. It's been delayed a couple of hours. I wonder if you have any intelligence on what's been happening behind the scenes. I mean, is it because they've been trying to figure out what, the facts before they can meet with us?
Well, there's the facts. There's a very active and ongoing investigation. Haven't seen one this active and hot for a long time. They are deriving a lot of information, and they're continuing to track down some pretty serious leads. I think they also have had to really have a self-reflection and a serious discussion in New Orleans about the ability to host the Sugar Bowl tonight, and whether that's something, given the law enforcement drain focused on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter. You see how close this is. I've personally walked the distance from that exact address to the Superdome, and it is a very short distance. It's a big area to secure, and I think there's been some real discussions and some rumblings we've heard about whether or not this game should be postponed, just from having the amount of first responders available. You imagine, just from an EMS perspective, what they've gone through.
Tom, I want to go ahead and pause here. It looks like they are readying to have the assistant FBI agent in charge there, whom we see at the podium about to speak. Let's go ahead and just pause for one moment. Okay, wait, they're not yet organized. I believe they're going to have a few more seconds. In the meantime, Tom, I do want to go back to when you mentioned sort of the rumblings about the question of whether or not this Sugar Bowl can continue. One thing I just kept thinking about was these potential IEDs. If that's something that you have not completely ruled out, if that is something that you have not completely located, if we're talking about 2 and potentially 3, where do they stand on that? I mean, how can they sort of assure that the public is safe if they have not identified and completely flushed out the possibility of neutralizing that threat?
I would just repeat your question back to you and say that's a huge question that I would have. The other question I would have is, you have EMS workers that worked all through the night last night. Say something else happens tonight that's completely accidental. It's innocuous. There's, a car accident near the scene or another incident. We'll turn it over to this press conference.
Here in FBI New Orleans. Thank you for being here today and for your patience. First, I want to acknowledge the victims of today's horrific attack. The FBI and our partners are working diligently to investigate and find answers on behalf of the victims, the citizens and residents of Louisiana, and everyone visiting the city. I'm going to provide you some facts and information about what we do know. I know that all of you will have questions, and we will try to provide some answers, but this is an ongoing investigation that's rapidly evolving. So there are some questions I will be unable to answer at this time. The FBI is the lead investigative agency, and we're investigating this as an attack of terrorism along with our partners. Today at approximately 3:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, an individual drove a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing at least 10 individuals and injuring dozens more. After hitting the crowd, he exited the vehicle and fired upon local law enforcement. Law enforcement returned fire, and the subject was pronounced deceased at the scene. 2 law enforcement officers were injured and transported to local hospitals. The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, a US-born citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck, which appears to be rented, and we are working to confirm how the subject came in possession of this vehicle. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations. Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle. Other potential IEDs were also located in the French Quarter. As of now, 2 IEDs have been found and rendered safe. The FBI Special Agent bomb technicians, as well as our local law enforcement partners, have been working to determine if any of these devices are viable, and they'll work to render those devices safe. The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We're aggressively running down all of the leads to identify the possible subject's associates. We're working to ensure that there is no further threat. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We're aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates. That's why we need the public's help. We are asking if anybody has any interactions with Shamsud Din Jabbar in the last 72 hours, that you contact us. The FBI is asking the public's help. We're asking anyone who has information, video, or pictures to provide it to the FBI. We have set up a digital tip line as well as our 1-800 number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Please provide us with any information that can assist us in this investigation. Once again, thank you for your patience and assistance. For an updated statement or information, please check the FBI's website and our social media accounts. I will now turn over to Mayor Cantrell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Agent Duncan, for your leadership and the full support of the FBI. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones that were impacted by this tragedy on Bourbon Street and in the heart of the city of New Orleans. And I know that the entire New Orleans City Council grieves along right with me, no doubt about that, and our people and our families. My priority will continue to be to ensure that victims that remain on Bourbon Street now will be serviced and removed as soon as possible. But as stated, the FBI is in charge of this investigation and are doing everything necessary to make this happen. I also want to acknowledge hearing from President Biden, all of our federal partners, but most importantly, calling Governor Landry this morning, responded with haste. And we do say thank you. And of course, a demonstration of a unified support is right here in this room. That's how we collectively responded to this tragedy in the city of New Orleans. The mission now is to facilitate, support, and coordinate safety procedures to keep our residents and our visitors safe. I've gone to the hospital along with Chief Kirkpatrick to visit our police officers, and considering their injuries, they're doing well. As I mentioned, this investigation is ongoing, and the FBI remains the lead in the investigation. It is an active crime scene as well. We are committed, no doubt, to uncovering all details surrounding this tragedy. And we're taking every necessary step to put even more safety procedures in place, especially given the nature of the investigation. I'm going to ask people to do not go around our secured area if there is no essential need to do so. It matters, and again, it is an active crime scene. I also want you all to know that the Greater New Orleans Foundation has set up a fund to assist victims, and that information will be provided to you. Thank you, Ganoff. Again, I want to thank this unified team. We're leaning in, we will be relentless, and we will do everything that it takes to render real justice. This team will. I want to also just thank our citizens for your heartfelt prayers. New Orleans is a world-class city, and I can say that I've heard from world leaders all this morning and up until now, in addition to my brother and sister mayors across this country. They're calling, they're responding, and they're standing with the city of New Orleans. And what they always say and want me to reiterate, they understand the resilience of this community. and we're strong in that regard. And I will say second to none. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our governor. And as I mentioned, who has not wavered any in leaning in, providing the necessary support, and standing right here with me. And I say, thank you, Governor. And I know the First Lady is standing with us as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Again, I want to thank the mayor. Since about 3:45 this morning, when she called me, we have all been working just around the clock to both secure the city and to solve this act. You know, again, I want to reiterate that our prayers go out with all of those who have been affected by this tragedy. I want to thank our law enforcement officers. I want to thank our medical personnel. I want to thank our first responders. And most importantly, I want to thank the two New Orleans police officers who not only laid their life on the line, but were able to eliminate the threat this morning. Let me say, we have made public safety a state priority from day one. And I think that if you look around me today, right now, and you look at the people who are standing around, that is their commitment as well. We intend to be transparent in assessing any defects that may have existed in the system so that we can address them. It's the only way to ensure that any mistakes that were made are corrected. Specifically, we have been trying and working very diligently to address security concerns in preparation for the Super Bowl since October. And it's interesting because, ironically, in preparation for the Super Bowl, I had intended to issue an emergency declaration tomorrow so that we could bring all of our federal, state, and local agencies to bear in preparation for the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. But because of the events today, I have amended that emergency declaration and issued it today. So again, that declaration will allow our federal, state, and local partners to bring all of the resources necessary to get this city safe. In light of that executive order, I have also ordered the mobilization of a military police company. I've asked General Freelou to mobilize a military police company to assist both New Orleans Police and LSP and the FBI. It is important for our citizens and guests of this state to know that we are doing everything we can to secure their safety in this city. We want to make it clear, the Superdome and the surrounding area is safe. But I've always said that the safety of this entire city is something that is always paramount to me. With that, I would like to turn it over to Jeff with the Super Bowl Commission. Jeff Dunley.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Obviously, we wish we weren't here for this reason today. The Sugar Bowl Committee has a 90-year history of being a good corporate citizen for the city of New Orleans, and that's why this tragedy hurts us as much as anybody right now. So our condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the victims and their families as we all work through this. Of course, anytime we have a major event in the city of New Orleans, public safety is paramount, and we have full faith and confidence in the governor and the mayor and all the assets, the federal, state, and local resources that they've applied to this event so that we can ultimately bring those responsible to justice and carry on with the major events that we have in front of us. Speaking of which, we were scheduled this evening to have a CFP quarterfinal played in the Superdome at 7:45. We have been in consultation with ESPN, with the College Football Playoff, with the Southeastern Conference, with the University of Georgia, with Notre Dame, all parties and all agree that it's in the best interest of everybody and public safety that we postpone the game for 24 hours. Work is fast about to set up a safe and efficient and fun environment for tomorrow night. There'll be more details on that in the coming hours, but for now, that's the plan. We're going to move forward and play the game. And again, we reiterate our thanks to everyone up here for the important work they're doing. We live in the fun and games world with what we do, but we certainly recognize the importance of this, and we're going to support it 100%. So thank you.
I'd like to bring up Senator Kennedy.
I wish I understood better why bad things happen to good people. If I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. For those people who don't believe in objective evil, all you have to do is look at what happened in our city early this morning. I am, if this doesn't trigger the gag reflex of every American, every fair-minded American, I'll be very surprised. I'm here because these are my people. I'm here because these are my people's friends. I'm here because there are a lot of Louisianians that are scared tonight. I don't want them to be. There's a lot of information going around. Some of it is actually true. Some of it isn't. The federal government is now in charge of this investigation. By that, I mean the White House, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. I have not talked to the FBI. Maybe they've talked to my staff. I don't know. I did talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security a little while ago. And I told him that with all the respect I could muster, that we expect to put the full force and resources of the federal government behind this investigation. Our state troopers, our local police departments, our sheriffs, we've got many sheriffs here today, have been terrific so far. The federal government is cooperating with them. I hope that will continue. Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth, and the people of New Orleans the truth, and the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know, and it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this. I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible. Or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Congressman Carter, I think.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Thank you to all of our law enforcement agents for doing a yeoman's job, for stepping up at a time when we needed you most, for employing the resources of all of our partners. This is all hands on deck, from the White House all the way down. I've been in communication with the White House since early this morning, Secretary Mayorkas, leaders in all of our federal, local, and state agencies. The president has made it very clear that he intends to bring every resource to bear to not only tell the truth, but to provide the resources to bring these cowards to justice. I want to personally thank the men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line to protect our citizens and our visitors. To our mayor and our governor for acting expeditiously and bringing us all together. To our sheriffs from the surrounding areas who have been Johnny on the spot, recognizing that if it happens in New Orleans, it can happen anywhere. We don't have the luxury of being myopic. In this community, we work together. We don't point fingers. We don't blame. We go after the bad guys. Let it be clear that the full faith and credit of the United States and every agency therein is on the ground, working. And for those who may have played a role in this horrific act of cowardice, we will find you. We will bring you to justice. New Orleans is a place that heralds its ability to protect its citizens, that heralds its ability to manage major events, Super Bowls, Sugar Bowls, Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, Essence Festival, you name it. No one does it better than law enforcement in New Orleans and in the surrounding area. Kudos to those 2 officers who've been wounded. Our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones. Our hearts go out to those who are wounded and on the mend in the hospital. Citizens, now is the time to stay calm, to be vigilant. This is not a time to come out to sightsee. Listen to your federal, local, state officials. Be vigilant. If you saw something, say something. If you know something, tell someone. There are tip lines, there's information available. Please, all hands on deck. Rest assured that the decision that was made to postpone the game was not done lightly. It was done with one single thing in mind: public safety. Making sure that the citizens and visitors of this great city, not only for this event, but for every event you come to in Louisiana, that you will be safe. And we will use every resource possible, as the governor has said, as the mayor has said, and every law enforcement agent here has said. Our energy, our commitment will be to make sure that you are safe now and for every event in the future. God bless you, and let's stay strong.
Thank you, Congressman.
Attorney General.
I first want to extend my sincerest condolences to the families of the victims. Parents got a phone call last night, early this morning, that no parent ever wants to receive. And as a parent of children who come to New Orleans and spend time here, I know that that is just something that, you know, we hold our breath sometimes till they're home safe, and some people did not come home safe. And we also have some people who are fighting for their lives right now in the hospital. So I'd ask everyone to pray for them. They need our support and they need our prayers. This was a heinous act, a heinous, cowardly act, and we will find them and we will bring them to justice. My office will be providing both investigative and prosecutorial support to the city of New Orleans, to the district attorney, Jason Williams in New Orleans, as I have done for months. We will continue to do that. We will provide the governor with whatever support that he needs, and the governor's office of Homeland Security, whatever support that they need. I'll be here to help. I will be here to stand with the city of New Orleans. We will bring them to justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor and Madam Mayor. For those who do not know me, my name is Ann Kirkpatrick. I'm the Chief of Police of New Orleans. My official title is Superintendent, but my role is as Chief of Police. You know, you've heard some of the details today, and over the last 24 hours, we had approximately 400 officers in the French Quarter. And as we know, this is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil. And when we face evil, we have a choice. We can run in fear, or we can indeed stand in strength. In a time of crisis, people are looking for leadership. You are looking at the leadership. And I promise you, as the chief of police of this city has been tried by fire before. But fire purifies. Fire makes things stronger. We have a plan. We know what to do. We are going to get these people. There is a path forward. Very pleased that we will be back to having a wonderful game tomorrow night. New Orleans police have proven their ability to make the city safer. Just 2 years ago, we were the murder capital of America. Today, from that time 2 years ago, we have driven our murder rate more than 50% down. So we have a track record. But this is different because it's terrorism. Now, I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners. You're fabulous, and we appreciate the partnership. But last night, 3 of our officers engaged this terrorist who shot at them. 3 of the officers returned fire. Those officers did not run in fear. I liked what the mayor said this morning. New Orleans police and all law enforcement is built. We are built for dealing with evil, with things that would cause others to be in fear, but instead our officers, and last night NOPD particular, stood strong. They did not run. They did kill the terrorist. We have 2 officers indeed who received gunfire. They will be okay, and we have personally gone to see them. But this is leadership for you. And I promise, as the chief of police of this fantastic city, that I will be strong and firm and fearless. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. In wrapping it up, I want to just close with a couple of things. I want to thank Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter. I want to thank again all of our law enforcement officers out there. I want the families of the victims to know that I will be issuing an executive order that tomorrow, when Notre Dame plays Georgia, every flag of every state building in this state is going to be at half-mast. In remembrance of them, but remembering something else, that fear in this state is a liar. And these folks right here are going to make sure that justice is served. And for the citizens out there that were saying, well, man, do I really want to go to the Sugar Bowl tomorrow? I'll tell you one thing, your governor's going to be there. That is proof, believe you me, that that facility in this city is safer today than it was yesterday. And as we come to additional events in this city, I know in speaking with Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter, an FBI acting director, and the incoming administration, that they are going to ensure that this city has the resources necessary to protect our citizens and our guests. And so with that, we'll take some questions.
All right, if you could, we'll start over here with CBS. Katie, we'll work our way across the room. If I miss you, just give me a holler. I may not see you. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, sir. Katie Boyce with CBS News. I mean, I think this has been a really tough day for a lot of people. But at this point, we're hearing that the death toll, according to some FBI sources, has gone up to 15. Is this true?
Who wants to answer that? Yeah.
I can speak to it. Because unless you have a final number. We do not have a final number. We know that we have confirmed 10, but we did have people who had been transported who were in critical condition. And so I do not know that, but I can confirm 10.
And one quick follow-up question, if I may. We know that there have been some local records in Texas about a misdemeanor background on this suspect. Any signs or warnings ahead of time about this person or their plans for what happened this morning?
Because that is the investigation part, I will give the FBI.
At this time, we cannot go into details about the subject's history. What I can tell you, the person was an Army veteran. We believe he was honorary discharge, but we're working through this process, figuring out all this information. The goal with the FBI is providing you with the most accurate and complete information. So once that information is confirmed, we'll make sure we push that out. Thank you.
Ariel.
At this time, do you know exactly, as far as the victims, how many are from here in Louisiana versus out of state and their ages maybe?
At this time, I can't go into details about all the victims. We want to make sure that first that the family is notified appropriately before we put any information out there. So once the families are all notified, then we'll go ahead and release a statement to everyone.
And I would ask the press, in relation to the victims and those that are in hospitals, if we could just refrain from worrying about them so their loved ones can take care of them, and the medical personnel that are trying to get them out of the hospital can do so. And as information becomes available, but we want to respect the privacy of those who are still either fighting for their lives or being cared for. Thank you.
A follow-up if I may.
Go ahead.
You guys mentioned accomplices. You don't think that the suspect acted alone. About how many more suspects are you guys looking into at this point?
It's a range of suspects. Right now with the FBI, we do not run a rule anything else. So that's why we're asking if anyone has had any interaction with the deceased subject Jabbar in the last 72 hours, provide us with this information. You can provide us that information through 1-800-CALL-FBI or our digital tips line, which is available on our social media website, as well as the big FBI website.
Can I say something, Ronka? Tell me who you're with.
WDSU.
WDSU. Okay, and CBS.
NBC's over here on the right.
Oh, that's an unusual position.
I don't get it.
You wouldn't. Look, the FBI is not going to be able to answer those questions. Okay, they will eventually. I promise you. Okay, once the FBI has a chance to investigate all this, along working with state police, working with Homeland Security, working with the city of New Orleans, they're going to tell you what happened. I can promise you that, or I'm going to raise fresh hell. But right now, they're in the process of trying to catch the other bad guys. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt for a while.
26.
Yeah, I had a question about the victims. I know that there was obviously gunfire exchange. So I guess how many victims were shot and then how many were injured?
Look, again, let me reiterate both Special Agent Duncan and Senator Kennedy. There's a lot of, I get that y'all want to know minute details. What we don't want to do is impede this investigation or spend any time talking about things that don't get us closer to hunting these folks down and securing the city. And so at a particular point in time, we will release as much information as we can. But at this time, in relation to the investigation, I would ask y'all to refrain from those.
So ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to just have more of the same, as the governor just said, we're going to provide that information, but we're going to wrap the press conference now. Hold on, let me finish. You weren't listening. If all of the questions are more of the same, what the governor just said in position, we won't be doing that to provide that information. And if you have a quick different question, then let's do that quickly and move on, okay?
Hold on. Ma'am, hold on.
Then who was next? We had over here.
Hi, Rachel Wolf from the Wall Street Journal. You said you were confident there are multiple suspects involved. What makes you confident?
Well, like, why would we tell you that? Again, again, we want to answer pertinent questions, but anything that would lead to impeding or endangering this investigation is not going to be said, okay? And we will, as information unfolds, this is a very fluid, fluid process. And remember something too. We're doing two things. We're hunting some bad people down and we're securing the city too. We're getting ready for a Sugar Bowl tomorrow. So if y'all would, again, if you have questions regarding Sugar Bowl, the safety of the city, or something to that effect, we're happy to answer. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Usually in parts of the French Quarter, specifically in parts of Bourbon Street, there are bollards. We're hearing that some of those may have been down because of repairs. Can you speak to that? And maybe was there any backup option of putting a truck there or an NOPD car there?
Well, let me tell you, yeah, one, I'm going to let the mayor answer. I want you to know that's one of the first things I thought of this morning when the mayor called me. Okay. And I will tell you that whatever the problem was is going to be solved.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, and thank you for the question. I do understand that it's been on your radar since this morning. As it relates to the bollards on Bourbon Street, over 10 years ago, excuse me, okay. Over 10 years ago, the city of New Orleans implemented an infrastructure project placing bollards on Bourbon Street. Shortly thereafter, the malfunctions of those bollards ensued from Mardi Gras beads on down. But the New Orleans Police Department, of course, deemed them inefficient because they did not operate the way that they were intended to do. Because the city of New Orleans is hosting Super Bowl this year, it gave the city of New Orleans an opportunity to go further and deeper with infrastructure improvements, as we've been talking about. So as a result of that, we were able to build in bollard replacement into our Super Bowl infrastructure package. And because of that, the city of New Orleans has moved forward with that infrastructure that is nearing completion. Bollards were not up because they are near completion, with the expectation of being completed, of course, by Super Bowl, way before Super Bowl. But that is the reason. Now, the New Orleans Police Department and Chief, you can speak to the deployment to respond to our needs and existing conditions.
All right, so we have been aware of the bollard situation for a long time, and we did indeed harden those target areas where the bollards are. We have patrol cars out there as a hard target, as well as with barriers. Now, I want to share with y'all, if you did not know, that this particular terrorist drove around onto the sidewalk and got around the hard target, where he did have a car there, we had barriers there, we had officers there, and they still got around. Now, the wedges that you see out there as well, we knew that that had malfunction problems. And I want you to understand, let's say we put the wedge up and it got stuck. There is no way that ambulance could get in or out, people couldn't get in and out. So we knew that these were malfunction. So we did indeed have a plan, but the terrorist defeated it.
Yeah, let me just say this. We recognize we got a problem right here, right? We're going to fix it. It is going to be a top priority as we go into the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. And the solution that we're going to come up with is going to be a permanent one. It's going to be placed into the standard operating procedure of having major events and securing that quarter.
A follow-up, if I may. Obviously, Sugar Bowl postponed until tomorrow, but I'm sure after that game, a lot of people are going to want to celebrate. Are there plans to keep Bourbon Street closed? What does that look like?
So right now, Bourbon Street is an active crime scene, and the FBI is in charge of it. When they clear it, and it does not become an active crime scene anymore, we're going to open it up.
Potentially.
Potentially. Fox 8?
Can we ask about this military police presence that you want to call it? Is this a private security like Blackwater? Also, would that be a first that a private security firm is mobilized to supplement local and state law enforcement?
No. We're not. This is our National Guard. These are our citizens that we bring it in. It's a military police company that we recognize. We need some more resources. We need some more boots on the ground because, again, what we're doing now is twofold. We've got an active investigation and we've got enhanced security. Before this event, we were just enhancing and working on security. So we brought some additional resources.
Jesse Kurtz with NBC News. Thank you for holding the press briefing. I just want to clarify something first. You were just talking about bollards that are being repaired, talking about a lift gate that are replaced and then a lift gate that's not been working. Was there a vehicle in place of that lift gate last night? Were there things in place of those bollards which are being repaired?
Sure, the chief spoke to the plan in place, and that is yes.
That was indeed.
So anything that is currently in the midst of being repaired had a backup replacement.
It had vehicles and officers were there where all of those ballasts have been. We had that, we knew. So we did have it. And like I said, in this particular case, terrorists just went all the way around up onto the sidewalk.
And the lift gate, what about the lift gate? Was there a vehicle like backing in and out to block that lift gate area, or was that just down and open? Because that's what we've heard from witnesses.
Chief, Captain. The reason I'm calling the captain, he's the captain over that district, and that is a question I'm going to let him address for you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain LaJean Roberts of the 8th District. Yes, we did have a vehicle strategically placed right in front of the wedge, preventing access onto the roadway.
And in terms of the framework of security that was already in place on Bourbon Street, I know this is an ongoing project of improvement, but with how that was all aligned, was someone getting up on a sidewalk considered impossible or nearly impossible, or was this not something you expected you would have to account for?
Yes, of course, it wasn't something we expected to account for. The bollards they're actually wedges. They're strategically placed 5 locations throughout the French Quarter on the roadway. This particular terrorist drove onto the sidewalk behind the police car to gain access to the 100 block of Bourbon Street.
So if you're worried about someone ever driving down Bourbon Street, why weren't you worried about someone driving up the sidewalk in the same way, or at least bracing for you the same way?
Okay. All right, look. We could go on what ifs forever. This is evil. And that guy could have easily gone down the sidewalk of Canal Street, where there were a ton of pedestrians on there as well.
And there are.
That's right. You're right.
So that's
right.
Hold on a second. We gotta move on.
Just want you to know, however, we recognize, I said earlier, that where there are defects in this system, we are going to be transparent and we are going to address them with the city and make sure that we fill those gaps as best we can. Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea Brazen with Axios. I have a question just about sort of ongoing public safety today. Special Agent mentioned 2 possible IEDs. Were those in the same location? Should residents in the French Quarter or elsewhere be concerned about potential other situations?
The 2 IEDs, they were in different locations. And what we've done in conjunction with our local and state partners, we've gone through and done a sweep to identify anything that we thought was suspicious, and we have not. However, as I said before, if the public sees something, please reach out to us. That way we can go through and verify that we did not miss anything. But we conducted initial sweeps, I think, starting shortly after our initial conference.
I'm going to thank you, Agent. I do want to share that we have a plan, and we have been implementing that plan. One of those plans is that we have swept all of these areas. The word swept means we have put officers out there as a grid, walking down the streets, every street in the French Quarter, looking for suspicious packages, bags, ice chests, you name it. And they have been walking it as a grid. We've been doing the same thing on Poydras and all the accesses into the Superdome. Part of the safety plan is we have bomb dogs out there sweeping the Superdome and all the exterior area, and we're locking that down. That will be locked down through the game tomorrow. So that's a part of that safety plan, and we've already been implementing it.
Okay, thank you all for
Yep.
coming out.
Question back here for the governor on the MPs. How many MPs will be deployed to New Orleans?
Right now, there's I think it's a Free 100.
100.
100, and, yeah. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
What gives you the confidence tomorrow night it'll be safe? Right.
I'm gonna be there.
Yes,
Me
but
too.
You're also saying you're making improvements or-
Yeah, we're gonna be there.
You are joining us right now for an NBC News special report. You've been listening to a news conference with the FBI, the New Orleans mayor, and other Louisiana officials. The biggest new detail we have learned is that the FBI does not believe that the suspect in the truck attack acted alone. In fact, they're asking for the public's help in finding his associates. They say that 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, they believe did not act alone. They are looking for what they called a range of suspects, and they're asking for anyone who has interacted with him, especially in the past 72 hours, to call their digital tip line. That is 1-800-CALL-FBI, or they said you can go to the FBI's website or their social media accounts. Also, interestingly, the Mayor LaToya Cantrell asked people to not violate their secured area. It is still an active crime scene as they're on the hunt for anyone who could have been associated with that suspect. Governor Jeff Landry there saying that he has organized an emergency declaration to organize resources there. And of course, we have updates now on that Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl, we have learned the big college football playoff game that was scheduled for tonight in New Orleans at the Super Bowl has now been postponed 24 hours until tomorrow. Again, it was scheduled for tonight. They say they're prioritizing public safety by postponing that game. And Morgan, just to note a couple of other things, we heard the Attorney General of the state of Louisiana say that there are many victims who are still in the hospital. Some are fighting for their lives, she said. And one last note, we heard from several of the authorities there saying they're hunting these folks down were the words that the governor used in describing additional suspects that they think they may be looking for. The FBI agent in charge, assistant agent in charge said, we're looking at a range of suspects. Let's go ahead and bring in NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, and also Carmen Best, NBC News law enforcement analyst, retired Seattle police chief. Tom, for the viewers who just joined us and maybe didn't hear everything, there was a lot in that press conference. The biggest thing, as Morgan said, seemed to be that this is not just one person they believe. They've got a suspect who is deceased, but they think there are potentially more people out there who helped him.
That's exactly right, Kate, and that is the big information from this press conference. They are looking for anybody that knows what this individual is. Shamsud Din Jabbar, 42 years old, born in Texas, current address, public records lookup shows that he has ties to the Houston area. We obviously know from that truck that we reported earlier today had Texas license plates on it. It was a rented Ford truck, so this was not a truck that this individual owned, and they are, according to the FBI, there is a belief that they are looking for other individuals. And we heard that at numerous times during the press conference, not just from the FBI, but from other state officials and from a U.S. senator. But we didn't hear specifically who they're looking for or how serious this might be. We did get confirmation, something that we've been reporting throughout the course of the afternoon here at NBC News, that there were at least 2 other IED-type devices that they found that could have been planted near here, that they're trying to determine whether or not those are viable explosives, as well as a potential improvised explosive device, a homemade explosive that was found inside the vehicle. Again, the FBI there and their special agent bomb technicians trying to determine whether or not that was a viable explosive as well. There were weapons that were found in the car. There was an apparent ISIS flag that was on this vehicle, and that is information the FBI is all now saying publicly. The question here is, who are they looking for? Is there an active threat? And that is information that we did not hear from there. We have been reporting since about 10 a.m. this morning Eastern time that this is a very hot and active federal investigation, a counterterrorism investigation that is being looked after at FBI headquarters. This is an investigation involving multiple FBI field offices, and they are trying to determine right now the travels of this particular individual, who they've been interacting with, and if there's there's anybody else who they have associations with in the past with possible prior criminal records that they need to be looking at. But this is a terrorist attack, the likes of which we have not seen in some time in this country. And the fact that it could involve multiple individuals, at least according to the FBI, is significant. So we're trying to determine who those individuals are, where they might be, and what happened. This incident happening at 3:15 local time there in New Orleans. You're looking at it. We have video that I don't know if we have yet ready to play, but video that I viewed, surveillance video of this attack. The driver goes down Canal Street. And makes a right where you see that dot on screen. The 3:15 a.m. car drives into large crowd. Where you see that dot, he's driving Canal Street from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. He goes up Canal Street. He sees the police car that's located in the middle of the street. But just as our own Jesse Kirsch from NBC News was pressing there at that media press conference and asking questions about, he goes around the police car up on the sidewalk. There are steel barriers there that are going to be no match for a pickup truck or for any other large size vehicle, and hits the gas. You're looking now at the video. We have it here. You're going to see this truck make this move to the right, boom, right there. And he moves very quickly as he goes up on the sidewalk, passes that police car, and then goes down Bourbon Street. Again, that's what we saw from that surveillance video. He ends up here, the video you're looking at now, crashing into that lift that was in the center of the street. And the reason why people are running, we're not playing the audio from this just because it's, as you can imagine, filled with profanities of people obviously scared about what was happening there. But there's a hail of gunfire that begins now, and that's why everybody starts running. We saw bullet holes in that car, and as we know, and we've been reporting throughout this morning since shortly after 7 a.m., this individual fired at police. Police fired at this individual, and they're looking into whether or not he was firing in the course of running people over on Bourbon Street, one of the most iconic streets in this country, in the course of committing this attack that's killed at least 10, and that death toll is expected to rise potentially, given the serious nature of the injuries that have occurred during the course of this alleged attack. So they're searching the area. You heard police say that they're surveying it. There will be enormous questions that are being asked already, that will be asked in the future, as to why there are not more bollards on that sidewalk to prevent vehicles from going up on the sidewalk. Look, it's just a fact of life. You see them all over New York City. You see them around our offices here. It's just a situation now where this is a known thing that people want to do, whether they're terrorists, whether they're motivated by hate, all sorts of ideologies, to take a vehicle and run it down a sidewalk or run it down a street and run people over. It's something we've seen a lot in this country. It's something we've seen often overseas, particularly in Europe. And so there will certainly be questions about New Orleans safety plan, particularly given the fact it's New Year's Eve, it's Bourbon Street. You know this is going to be a target late. But I think the big question right now, to go back to it, is what has the FBI uncovered? What are they still hoping to uncover about this individual, his known associates? And from there, what can they learn as far as anybody else who might have been helping out, who may have planted these possible IEDs? And is there a further security concern? We already heard that the Sugar Bowl is going to be postponed 48 hours. 24 hours as they wait this. That was something that was expected. You and I were talking about it before this press conference began, just the drain on law enforcement and first responder resources for any major event like that, to have that event when they've gone through so much over the last 12 hours or so, would be very difficult for them. So this is definitely an ongoing investigation. It's a hot terrorism investigation, and we haven't seen something like this in a while.
Tom, it sounds like, from what we're learning, there are two things happening right now in this city at the same time. One, they are searching for more suspects. Two, they are trying to secure the city. I want to get onto that plan in the next few hours to secure the city. There's one thing I just cannot let go, that the assistant FBI agent in charge said during that press conference, that the suspect was an Army veteran and they believe that he was honorably discharged. What more do we know about the so-called criminal pedigree or criminal history of this suspect?
Yeah, that's information that we're getting into. Doesn't appear to be a significant criminal history involving this individual, and we are trying to get some more information. We have in the past. Our Pentagon team is on it, trying to figure out more information about his service record. A lot of those records are not.
Guys, thank you for still being here, watching the continuous coverage of this horrible, horrible event that happened on New Year's Eve. While the world was celebrating, there was a crazy maniac, a crazy person decide to affect other people's lives by running his truck, going around the barricades, pow-powing 2 police officers, and then driving his truck around the barricades while people are celebrating in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, while they are all celebrating, enjoying their lives, minding their own business. He decided to destroy other people's lives, okay? By running his truck around the barricades, plowing through the crowds, okay? Let's hear what they're saying now.
Can anybody in the control room tell me where? Houston, Texas. I see the ID there. So this is a live picture of the house that we believe is associated with the suspect, who again is deceased at this point. Carmen, one other thing that was brought up, many things were brought up in the press conference, but I believe I heard the governor talk about National Guard. I'm not sure if I heard that completely correctly, but I think he was saying they were bringing in additional resources. Did you hear that? And does that, I guess I'm wondering, are they going to be ready for the Sugar Bowl tomorrow night?
24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours from now?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, Kate. Yeah, certainly he did mention bringing in Governor Landry, the National Guard. That is common in a situation like this to have the National Guard help to reinforce resources that are being depleted for other activities and other assignments. That said, it's also very clear from what they were saying that they believe that there is a credible threat that exists. They are going to try to find out who these additional perpetrators are. And certainly they're not going to let that Sugar Bowl occur until they have that figured out and under control. So while they're saying 24 hours, I'm raising a brow to that. Well, I hope that that is true, but I'm pretty sure that they will not allow this to occur until they know exactly what they're dealing with. The suspect's Army history certainly raises a question about where he was deployed, who he contacted, what his job was in the Army, what information he had. All of those things they're working on to get answered. And until they have real clear answers about that and who else may have been involved, they are probably not going to let that Sugar Bowl occur. So they're giving us a 24-hour time period. It's to wait and see, if you ask me.
Carmen Best with us. Carmen, thank you so much. Our thanks also to Tom Winter, who was with us a short time ago. Appreciate you. And our thanks to Morgan Radford, who is going to take her leave. You've been here for hours and hours and hours. And I'm Kate Snow, and we'll continue now with our coverage and get you up to date on what we know at this hour. It is 3 p.m. on the East Coast. It is noon Pacific time. Our coverage of the deadly car attack in New Orleans continues. Here's what we know. The attack happened early this morning on Bourbon Street. Police say a driver intentionally rammed a pickup truck into crowds celebrating the new year. Police have confirmed at least 10 people are dead. The FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism. A short time ago, the FBI identified the suspect as 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar. He is a U.S. citizen, born in Texas, we're told. The FBI says he was killed in a shootout with police this morning. However, the Bureau believes he did not act alone.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates. That's why we need the public's help. We are asking if anybody has any interactions with Shamsud Din Jabbar in the last 72 hours, that you contact us.
The FBI also says an ISIS flag and other weapons were found on the truck. It appeared to crash into a crane after the attack. A warning that what we're about to show you now is disturbing. Videos posted to social media by witnesses that have been verified by NBC News show bodies laying in the street. We have blurred parts of the clip so that you don't see that. Witnesses described the horror that they saw and heard firsthand.
And there were just bodies and the screams. I mean, you can't think about, unhear that. It was chaos.
It just kept going. Like every eye shot, body. It was unbelievable. It was only could be referenced to a movie.
It was just loud, something really loud. And then I heard more fireworks. I don't know what it was, but apparently it wasn't fireworks. This is my first time hearing it. It'll probably be my last.
Just some of the things that we're hearing from folks down there who witnessed what happened. Now let's talk about the Sugar Bowl. We just learned that that big college football playoff game has been postponed 24 hours until tomorrow night. It was scheduled to be played tonight at the Superdome in New Orleans. And joining me now from there, NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch. Jesse, you were also at the press conference, so let me start by asking you about what you heard in that room. We've been trying to sort of digest and tell the viewers what news we got out of that, but why don't you tell us what stuck out to you?
Yeah, and I want to give you the latest information that we have. I'm from someone with the governor's team, just spoke with a colleague of ours, Kate, and we're going to just walk down the block. You mentioned we're outside of the Superdome. This is it. It is supposed to be hosting a college football game nationally televised tonight. That's been called off for at least 24 hours. And we also now know, or I should say, it's been called off for at least 24 hours. And this is all supposed to host the Super Bowl in less than 2 months. But what I am now learning from our colleague who just spoke with someone from the governor's team, we weren't quite clear on whose call it was for the game to be postponed. Was it officials from the Sugar Bowl itself trying to just be sensitive to the situation and take a pause or account for security from their standpoint, or was it a government decision? And what we're told from the governor's team is that this was a decision made by state and local authorities, the government. And that is sticking out to me because this morning, Kate, just hours after this all unfolded. Also, I just want to be clear, you're hearing sirens. We've got flashing blue lights. Police vehicles are going to be coming by me right now. This is where the press conference was. These are motorcade vehicles, it appears. So I just want to be clear, we're not looking at an imminent security situation where I am right now. Obviously, the city is on edge, and as you mentioned, they do not think the suspect acted alone. So obviously, tensions, you can imagine, are raised in this city right now. But to be clear, that appears to have just been a motorcade. A lot of law enforcement personnel have been where I am right now. But just going back to what we were talking about, Kate, the fact that this was a government decision, just hours after this incident occurred, the first press conference, or I shouldn't even call it a press conference, first media on-camera statement we heard from officials because they did not take questions at that event, which included local officials as well as the FBI. Authorities said that they were saying to people they could go about their day, just stay away from the French Quarter, specifically the Bourbon Street area. They were not telling people that the game was called off. They were not even suggesting that it was being considered at that point. And so something clearly has changed in the mindset of officials to make them make that decision and change the language around it. So that stuck out to me, and that just speaks, I think, to the fluidity of the situation. The other thing that really sticks out to me from this press conference, and this is something that I asked for clarity on, is that officials here in the city of New Orleans are in the midst of an ongoing process to improve the barriers along Bourbon Street. The goal is to have this completed by the Super Bowl. This is something that they knew they wanted to fix up. So going into New Year's Eve, they had deficiencies that they wanted to improve in that area. But something that was not part of the plan to begin with, something that was not in place already, I should say, on Bourbon Street are bollards, these barriers, effectively right about the size of a fire hydrant, not a fire hydrant, but probably about this size, and something that is solid and is meant to be a protective barrier. And you might see that, you see those in major cities at major locations all over the place. Those were in place along Bourbon Street, an area, of course, with a lot of foot traffic, with a lot of people that would be exposed, right, potentially in a soft target area, if you will. But the sidewalks over there did not have those kinds of barriers protecting them. And so I think that is going to be one of the real questions moving forward, is why that was not considered, or was it considered and ultimately decided against. And what I can tell you from the press conference in there is that officials said that wasn't something they had accounted for previously. And that really stuck out to me, Kate, because I know that when I think about sidewalks, I've walked down in major cities, even what seem like more run-of-the-mill sidewalks, let alone a tourist destination like Bourbon Street. I've seen those before. And the fact that they weren't up there while they were actively worried about a threat on the street itself just doesn't really align with logic, I think, fully. And I think it's something that would catch a lot of people by surprise.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, really appreciate your reporting there. I know you've just been there a few hours. I'll let you go do some more reporting and we'll get back to you. Thank you. Let me bring in NBC News Justice correspondent Ken Delanian, who has also been with us from the very beginning here. Ken, The big news, as we keep saying, out of that law enforcement briefing a short time ago, is that they do not believe that the suspect, Shamsud Din Jabbar, acted alone. What more do we know about this? We heard them mention a range of suspects. What are you hearing from your sources?
Not much, Kate. We are working right now to try to learn what we can about this because, frankly, that news conference, those folks were not very forthcoming about this, and it's not clear why. It's not clear whether they don't know the identities of these alleged co-conspirators and have a vague idea and are trying to run them down, or they do know the identities, but they don't want to betray crucial elements of the investigation. They don't want these people to know they know, or what's going on. Because oftentimes when the FBI is trying to find suspects who are at large, they provide as much information as they can to the public and ask the public for help. And they have asked the public for help in this case. They just haven't said who these people might be that they are seeking, who they say, as you said, a range of co-conspirators. At one point, one of the officials said, we have some bad people we need to run down. Well, who are those bad people and where might they be? And the fact that they've now postponed the Sugar Bowl really underscores the fact that they don't have this thing wrapped up. And Kate, we haven't seen a terrorist attack of this magnitude and scope in a long time. There have been a lot of lone wolf attacks in this country since 9/11, but I can't recall one of this complexity where there were co-conspirators at large, 12 hours after the event, or even more than that. And the FBI is saying we're looking for these people and we're not telling you who they are. So that is a huge deal, and we're working to learn more about that. Obviously, one of the big questions is they said they found IEDs in the city. Did this dead suspect plant those bombs, or did somebody else plant those bombs? And how did he get the weapons, and how did he build those bombs? Did he act alone there? We believe that he rented the car through a sort of an Airbnb for autos, and so the owner of that car, we believe, had no connection to this. But there are many other aspects of this that remain unanswered, and that's what really struck me from that news conference, is that they just didn't have answers to those questions, either didn't want to or couldn't answer those questions, Kate.
Yeah, it was striking to me as well, some of the language, as you said, the governor said hunting these folks down. The police superintendent said, we are going to get these people, but they didn't really identify who these people are. Perhaps that's, Ken, you know better than I do, but I assume that maybe some of that might be they're protecting what they do know because they don't want the public to know just yet. And I know they've asked for the public's help. I mean, that was striking as well, right? They're asking anyone who has associated with this man to come forward.
Yeah. Now, oftentimes they don't reveal things because they don't want the subjects, the targets, to know what they know. But in this case, if you presume that there are co-conspirators here, and the FBI is announcing that, then the co-conspirators know that the FBI knows about them, right? So it's hard to understand why they wouldn't want to reveal more information to the public in order to elicit the public's help if people are at large. But there is the possibility that they don't know, that they just have a vague idea based on surveillance that they've done or analysis they've done of the subject's devices, that there is a network, but they don't know the identities of the people. There's also the possibility that was raised by Frank Figluzzi, one of our law enforcement contributors, a longtime FBI official, that the FBI knows a lot about these people because they were already on the FBI's radar. Now, again, that's not confirmed, that's speculation, but we've often seen that in these cases. People with ties to ISIS or sympathies to ISIS often come on the FBI's radar. The FBI is doing significant surveillance and investigation in the counterterrorism realm. And that doesn't mean they're arrested or charged. That the FBI may be aware of them and maybe watching them or not watching them. And that's something we're going to be asking about in the future here, whether that's a possibility. But yeah, a lot of questions raised by that news conference and some significant answers missing, Kate.
All right, Ken Delanian for us, monitoring all of this in real time. Ken, thank you so much. Joining me now, the District Attorney for Orleans Parish, Jason Williams, is with us. Mr. District Attorney, thank you for your time. I'm sure it's an extremely busy day for you. We're all thinking of your community right now and thinking of those affected by this horrible tragedy. Can you talk about what is happening at your level right now? I don't know if you could hear the...
Hey guys, thank you for continue watching. I do want to put up something that I just came across just a few minutes, about 2 or 3 minutes ago. Okay, I do want to put this up. This looks like it is a picture of the known suspect. Okay? The suspect was identified as US-born, I want to say his name, I'm not going to pronounce it right, but I will just put it in the chat so that you all can see his name as I try to pronounce it. But also what I'm going to do is show you the picture that they saying that's him. Identified as US-born citizen, what is that? Shamsud Din Jabbar. I'm not sure how, but the last name is Jabbar. So let's take a look at, and then I'll bring you back to the coverage. Okay? I'll bring you back to the coverage. So what we're going to do is take a look at who the suspect that they say it is. Okay? I got it here. Okay. So as you all can see, this was released this morning at January the 1st, 2025 at 11:45 p.m. Okay? And this is by Ashma Grover. I want to say that name. But I would have this information down in the description box. So if you want to go back and look at it, and you can pronounce their names correctly if I mispronounced them. Who was asking, who is Shamsud Din Jabbar? I just say, who was, the person's name is Jabbar. New Orleans, New York attack suspect named after 10 left unalived and dozens injured. And I think that has been updated. Instead of 10 unalived, my last update I received was 15 now is unalived. Okay? So let's get into it. The now deceased suspect involved in the New Orleans bloodbath in New Year's Day has been named in the preliminary ID report as him. Law enforcement officially have identified the suspect. Okay, law enforcement has officially identified the suspect in the New Orleans attack on New Year's Day. While we was all celebrating on my live last night, New Year's, bringing in the new year 2025, this person here in this picture made a conscious decision to aim and pow at two police officers, decided to drive his truck around the barricade and plow down in a crowd of hundreds of people on Bourbon Street. Everybody knows the well-known, famous Bourbon Street in New Orleans. This Bourbon Street never sleeps. There are bars and restaurants and everything is open, businesses 24 hours a day. He decided on the day that everyone is celebrating, bringing in a new year, 2025. This is a conscious decision, motivated by I don't know what, to plow his truck, not just creeping his truck, but plowing, driving fast down a crowd of people on that's enjoying their life, minding their own business, being happy, celebrating with their families, friends, and loved ones down a crowded street. And you don't do that without the intentions of unaliving people. This is that person. I don't want to call him a man. This is that person He has been identified as Jabbar, last name Jabbar. Shadeen, whatever. Shameen, Shadur, whatever. I'm not going to try to pronounce that first name. Last name Jabbar. Okay? So I just want you all to see his face. See his face. See those eyes of evil. Eyes of evil. Okay? Evil person. Okay. 10 people unalived and injuring dozens others. Officials previously established that the 42-year-old man was hell-bent on unaliving as many people as possible. And I understand he had a pow-pow with him and other devices. Okay? The FBI is investigating the horrible incident as an act of terror instead of a DUI. No, that's no DUI. That is not a DUI. That is totally different. Those two different things, two different apples, two different. That's an apple and an orange. That is not the same. After the suspect driving a pickup truck plowed through his vehicle through a crowd of people celebrating the incoming New Year on Bourbon Street in New Orleans at 3:15 a.m. Yes, I did hear about that time. 3:15 a.m. 10 people were unalived in the aftermath. And that, guys, that number has went up. Meanwhile, dozens of others was left injured as per early Wednesday reports. Now, I'm hearing that was more than 35 injured. Okay? And as I heard on the news reports and everything else earlier from my news reports live, that number. Okay? According to the, Jabbar was a 42-year-old American citizen, born and raised in Texas. He formerly served in the U.S. Army per the U.S. Sun. Like many others, he allegedly unalived in the New Year Day horror slaughter. The suspect was gunned down by in a firefight with police, but not before he opened fire, resulting in 2 officers being wounded during the attack. Okay, guys, that's the person. Okay, now let me go ahead and get on with the news for you all. We're going to get back to the news. We're going to get back to it. Oh, my Lord. Okay, now we're going to see what MSNBC News report, MSNBC reports have to say. They're reporting live as well. They've been reporting live since I was going live with the other news outlet, but we're going to see what they're reporting as well. All right. We got to cover it from all angles. Yes, we do. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this down so we can get with the other. This is sad. And I do pray for all the families that was affected by this horrible, horrible incident. All right. And the information will be down in my description box with MSNBC. So if you want to go back and look at it, you may do that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. And this is live coverage. Everything is live coverage that I'm showing. Okay.
It's not very often that we hear that officials believe that multiple people were involved in something of this scale. Certainly, and we've unfortunately covered far too many of these mass shootings. It's typically, I think, almost every time, if not every time I've covered one of those, we hear officials say they believe this individual acted alone. Sometimes, right, someone is implicated in some accessory fashion, but the fact that they are saying that they do not think this person acted alone sticks out to me from other incidents we've covered. And to your point, they're not sharing very much right now. So I don't know what that tells us about where they are in terms of getting to those other people, but clearly they feel they need the public's help right now to try to bring this to a resolution quickly.
All right, NBC's Jesse Kirsch outside the Superdome for us there. We want to turn now to J.P. Morrell, council member at large and vice president of the New Orleans City Council. I want to ask you first, what are you hearing from constituents today? Are they feeling uneasy or unsafe in their city after this attack?
I think what we hear the most is a lot of anger and sadness. Obviously, it was a horrendous event which took place on something that's really seen as kind of the central main street of New Orleans. And a lot of unanswered questions that over the course of this morning, a lot of them have been answered as far as just how this truck was able to get around the secured perimeter and how it was able to get down the road. Now, just because those questions have been answered doesn't mean they've been answered satisfactorily. And obviously, as our governor said, we are going to get to the bottom of what needs to be improved to make improvements upon our safety measures. But it is evident from what I have heard thus far that this was a targeted terrorist attack. It was very well planned. And I expect that as time goes on in the next 24, 72 hours, we're going to get even more information that supports that hypothesis.
As Jesse just referenced at the press conference, you heard the governor asked, is the Sugar Bowl going to be safe? Should people be worried? And he said, well, I'm going to be there. Is that enough to make you confident in that event's safety? And how are you feeling about other major events in the city, Mardi Gras, the Super Bowl, any of these big events that bring so many people in and are always de facto targets for events like this?
Well, I mean, that's just the issue. The issue is that when you look across the nation at soft target potential sites, it's New York, Times Square, it's Mardi Gras in New Orleans, it's all these different open festivals and events we have across the entire nation. I do think right now with the sheer amount of resources, we had a lot of resources beforehand that is quadrupled in a very short period of time. What I've been telling my constituents and what I tell visitors right now is you're going to have to exercise a whole different level of patience, because when this level of security is ramped up just in the short term, during the investigation, through the Sugar Bowl, through the Super Bowl even, it is going to be a very different New Orleans that you'll be experiencing, because we are going to have to account for all that. There's already conversations happening right now about what we're going to have to do to make Mardi Gras different this year, as far as like how we're going to have to look at parade routes, securing those routes, and the like. So, I mean, yes, I think that there should be concerns, generally speaking, but with the amount of resources that we have at our disposal, especially right now from the state and the federal level, in addition to local parishes, which I'll call counties in this area, we are going to be one of the safest places on earth. And I think what the governor was trying to say in a very short kind of flippant way is, yes, it's going to be safe. I'm going to be there. And if I didn't think it was safe, I wouldn't go there. And I think that the extra time that's being given is partially to try and close any loose ends, but also because, remember, Bourbon Street, which is that street everyone frequents, that iconic lane in New Orleans, it's also an active crime scene. And the fact is that the FBI, the state and federal, local officials, they're all casing Bourbon Street and collecting every bit of evidence on this case. Bourbon Street would not be available tonight. And there's a tremendous amount of businesses and other groups that are affected. I think delaying this is not just for security, but it's also to hopefully have some of those businesses, maybe, hopefully, if that crime scene is cleared, to potentially recoup the revenue they're hemorrhaging right now. If that's not the case, I mean, it may go beyond then, so be it. But I think that extra time is to cover a variety of different topics and different issues.
I mean, obviously, this is an ongoing and fluid investigation, and law enforcement just told us some things, but, played others close to the vest. What questions do you still want answered most right now about what happened last night?
Well, I mean, there's specific things that stood out to me. The fact that you had this individual rent a vehicle on Turo, which is this kind of unregulated, peer-to-peer rental app. He was able to set up apparently and put together his plan in an Airbnb. These are all in themselves kind of like soft targets for tourism and people who are looking to do ill, because had this person rented a car from Hertz and went to a hotel, this never would have gotten this far, because there's so many points of interaction where this person might have been uncovered. So I want to see how those different abilities to rent a vehicle, get a property in our city in this quasi kind of legal way, are these other loopholes that have to be closed across the nation? Because if Airbnbs are now the places you can go to set up and do these kind of things, then we got to relook at Airbnbs too.
All right, JP Morrell, council member at large and vice president of the New Orleans City Council. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And coming up, we'll talk to a counterterrorism expert about the revelations that the suspect in that truck ramming attack had an ISIS flag. Stay close, more special coverage after the break.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. At Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,800, only on Verizon.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build, the oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest Pocket Hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-407-7609. That's 1-800-407-7609. Or visit copperbullet.hose.com. Order now.
If you take or have taken Humira for moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis and still have symptoms, you don't have to settle. Ask your gastroenterologist if switching to Rinvoq is right for you. It's one of the latest treatments from the makers of Humira. Rinvoq works differently than Humira and may help. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that can deliver rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission, and helps visibly reduce damage of the intestinal lining.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers, including lymphoma and skin. Serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events: infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Rapid symptom relief and lasting steroid-free remission are possible with Rinvoq. Ask your gastroenterologist if switching to Rinvoq is right for you. You could pay as little as $0 per month.
Sorry, your car's pretty.
Celebrate.
Guys, thank you all for still being here. We're going to let that play on through, and we're going to let that play on through so I can still bring you more coverage live on this. This is a ongoing investigation from an attack that happened New Year's Eve while everybody was celebrating, bringing in the new year. We had a mad person, a mad man decide. I'm going to show you who this person is. Once again, a mad person, a mad man that decided to, on a deliberate act, decide to take his truck and plow down the streets of Bourbon Street in New Orleans, the world famous Bourbon Street. This is the suspect, Jabbar. They identified him as a US-born American or citizen, however you want to put it. This is courtesy, this photo is courtesy of New York Post. Photo is courtesy and credit attained by the New York Post. These are eyes of evil. I would say eyes of evil. He is from the Texas area, from Texas. And this incident happened at around 3:15 a.m. on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. While people are celebrating, he decided to drive his truck around the barricades and plow down families, friends, loved ones that were celebrating. And he is from Texas. It said born and raised in Texas, and that he was formerly served in the U.S. Army. Okay. He decided to put harm and destruction on others. I'm not sure why, what was his intentions, but it's deplorable. It is deplorable. And that I could honestly say, this is a deplorable act. And we're going to, I'm going to go back and let you see what else is going on in the news concerning this person that decided to make sure destruction was everywhere. Okay, so we're going to I just pray. All I can do is just pray for all those families, pray for all the victims that is in the hospital. That's all we can do, is just continue to pray for them, lift them up in prayer and everything. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the news footage of it. All right, guys. And as I said before, this is an act, he did this deliberately. There's no question about that. It wasn't a DUI or anything of the sort. Also, the next video we're going to be looking, this is live, coming live, is with WDSU News. Okay. They said it's 10 that's unalived in New Orleans after the car plowed into Bourbon Street crowd. Okay. So we're going to see what they're reporting on. And this is live. This is a live coverage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up for you all. We're trying to cover this at all angles. All right. And you can see over to the side, this is a live event that's going on now. If you can see over to the side, you can see some of the questions and comments people are making. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let you listen.
And then they were told to evacuate. And now Shawanda has talked to a neighbor who said they saw that white truck. But I mean, a white pickup truck in South Louisiana, you don't think anything about it. But now to know that it is connected to this terrorist attack, it certainly has different significance.
Yeah, look, and the big question is, how long was this person here? Shamsud Din Jabbar, how long was he here? Was he making bombs in that Airbnb right there in the St. Roch neighborhood? These are all things that the FBI is working on answers to. They may know the answers already, but I just think they're not ready to to share a lot of that until they get more people in custody and really piece everything together.
That's right. And as this situation is still coming into focus and we are learning more details, we did hear from officials, the governor saying that he's going to, take every effort to make sure that the city of New Orleans is safe. We know that safety in New Orleans had been his priority when he was talking about violent crime, but certainly didn't imagine a terrorist attack to unfold on Bourbon Street hours before the city was prepared to host a major sporting event, the Sugar Bowl, which we know has been postponed until tomorrow afternoon.
And then look, in just 5 weeks, we have the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event on earth, needless to say, and the eyes of the world are going to be on the city of New Orleans. We talked to Mike Kahn, our security expert who was here with us. They are clearly going to have to possibly revisit their security package or plan here in light of this, because there are going to be just as many, if not more, tourists in the city for the Super Bowl than there were for New Year's and the Sugar Bowl.
We talked to a terrorism expert from Tulane, and he was telling us just about the intelligence gathering that has to go into this investigation and how they will be looking through social media, through any indications of how this plot came together, and if it is in fact connected to ISIS or any type of larger terrorist network.
All right, let's go live. I believe Randy and Sulla are standing by live right where
But before then, let's go to Fletcher Mackel, who has been also monitoring things in the French Quarter. Fletcher, what's going on there?
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick update, then I'll let you get to Randy and Sulla, because I know you all are field anchoring everything with a lot of great information that people really need. I'm going to step out of the way here. It is continuing to thin out here, so to say, on Bourbon Street. We're right in front of Tropical Isle on Bourbon Street, right where they found one of the IEDs earlier today and did a self-detonation, a safety detonation, if you will. There's a lot of people. Photojournalist Stefan Cage is going to shoot straight through Bourbon Street, right in front of the St. Louis Cathedral, obviously the most iconic building in our city. And you can see Royal Street is open. There are tourists gathering to see what is going on. Coming up behind us, and he doesn't have to turn around, I'm just going to tell you that there are people coming to see what is going on. It is a beautiful day in the city of New Orleans. So a lot of the people that are in town for the 91st Sugar Bowl, which again was supposed to be played tonight and will now be played on Thursday evening, are getting out and about to see what is going on. But as all the leadership said at the most recent media briefing, Bourbon Street is a crime scene. Until the FBI says it is not a crime scene, they are not going to open Bourbon Street. Now, again, you see one officer there with Wildlife and Fisheries. They're here. We have state police here. We have NOPD here, a massive law enforcement presence throughout the French Quarter. But the fire department is gone. The NOPD is gone. The FBI is gone. This scene looks like it is getting closer to being cleared. That doesn't mean they're going to open Bourbon Street anytime soon, but we've been here since 4 a.m. So we're going on 10 hours now. And obviously, right when this initially happened, they moved us back. They brought the bomb squad in. They put the police tape up after they did the detonation. And then they brought the investigators out, FBI crime scene investigators gathering everything. They flew a drone over Bourbon Street and the entire area. And now it is mostly tourist. And a lot of the businesses off of Bourbon Street, I can tell you right now, are back to normal. I actually went and picked lunch up, a moment of levity for us about an hour ago when that press conference was going on as I listened to it. And a lot of the businesses are back to normal and in and around Bourbon Street. But on Bourbon Street, in the direct vicinity of Bourbon Street, it is still very much closed here right now. And you can see that officer. Most of the law enforcement that we have seen, very courteous, helping people get to their destinations, giving them directions, and being very courteous with what to do and how to do it. But that's the latest from here on the corner of Bourbon and Orleans, right in front of Tropical Isle, which unfortunately would have been one of the busiest days for them, and they will not be able to open today.
All right, Fletcher. Yeah, thank you. I know you've been down there all morning in the French Quarter dealing with IEDs. We should point out the FBI did confirm that they did find 2 of those IEDs and they were contained probably where you are, Fletcher, because it's a serious situation. And then what Gina was talking about, the AP is reporting that they have video of it's 3 men and 1 woman who were placing what looked to be IEDs or suspicious devices near garbage cans in the French Quarter.
All right, we are getting just a kind of a clearer picture of the victims who were involved in this attack. We know that at least 10 have been confirmed dead. This is one of the victims confirmed by her family members. Nakira Dido from Mississippi was on Bourbon Street early this morning when that truck plowed into the crowd. She is among those deceased this evening.
Then from Lafayette, we have Tiger Besh, 28 years old. He is the older brother of Jack Besh, former LSU football player, current TCU football player. Tiger Besh, it's our understanding, went to and played football at Princeton. He died at an area hospital at 28 years old. His family has tight ties to the Lafayette area and LSU.
All right, as we get more information on the victims or the investigation, certainly we will pass it along to you. But those are our updates at this hour.
So once again, the time is 2:41. And just to recap, just briefly, if you are joining us, the very latest information is that the person responsible for this, Shamsud Din Jabbar, has been shot and killed. Police do not believe that he acted solely in this. They are looking for accomplices. You see it right there. The governor has issued a state of emergency. He has also called in military police. Right now, the numbers still fluid. 10 killed, more than 30 others injured at area hospitals. The suspect, once again, his name is there, Shamsud Din Jabbar. He is from Texas. He was actually in the military at one time, may have possibly been stationed in North Carolina, according to a TV affiliate there.
The governor has ordered flags tomorrow to be flown at half staff in remembrance of the victims who lost their lives, those people who are still looking for their loved ones. I do believe that there is a setup at City Hall, also a number that you can call to check in on those victims. At first, people were being advised to call 311 if you're still looking for your loved ones. I know that there's certainly we are looking for an update on just their condition or the status in terms of those people who were injured in this attack. Chief Ann Kirkpatrick said that her officers did everything they could. They ran toward the attack after it happened. 3 officers stood there and engaged the terrorists. She said that the officers killed the terrorists. 2 of those officers were shot in the process. I know earlier we were showing you video of that exchange of gunfire and the chaotic moments that followed on Bourbon Street that unfolded just after 3 o'clock this morning. But here also is some more video where you can see that white truck that has crashed into what appears to be a crane that's staged on Bourbon Street. We do know that there was some construction happening on Bourbon Street. There were a lot of questions about security measures, about whether or not there were bollards or barricades out. But as we have seen in the video, that white truck did go around an NOPD cruiser that was at Canal and Bourbon Street and plowed into a very active crowd. Here's that video here, the white pickup truck. The FBI did confirm that that is an ISIS flag on the truck. Unclear his direct connection, if any, with ISIS, something that they are still trying to investigate, or whether or not this person, the suspect, was a member of a larger terror network. But the Associated Press, as we are said, have reported that 3 men and a woman were seen placing IEDs or explosive type devices around the French Quarter. So not only do we have the suspect, the driver, who is dead, but potentially police investigating or on the lookout for 4 additional suspects.
And look, if we can show that video again, because we haven't shown it in a little bit until just now, this really kind of brings it into focus what exactly happened. Like Gina said, you saw the truck going down Canal Street. If we can punch it back up, possibly, you see the truck. Now we have blurred a lot of it out, and we're not going to show you the whole thing, but there it is right there. You can see the truck do that hard right turn. An NOPD cruiser is blocking Bourbon Street. We have seen the full video. The truck that accelerates rapidly. It looks like the driver, Din Jabbar, punches it, and he goes over numerous people on the sidewalk and then down the street, just to show you the moments before everything went down, where he went around that NOPD SUV. Questions have been asked about the bollards that are in place for Bourbon Street, and Kirkpatrick was firm. This is a horrific tragedy, but it may not have even mattered if those bollards were working. It appears they may have been being repaired at this point, but nonetheless, the person went right around a police cruiser.
And for all of the people who would go out to celebrate New Year's Eve, this something like this is not a tragedy that you could have prepared for. There wasn't anything you can do in terms of taking your own personal safety precautions. And so police still trying to get to the bottom of exactly the motivation for something like this happening.
Cassie Sherr, one of the first reporters on the scene this morning, just after 3 a.m. Let's go back live to her with more details on what things look like as the sun is now up and people are moving about in downtown New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a little bit more normalcy than we have had all day. It has been a lot of police officers, a lot of law enforcement, but now we're seeing a little bit more people out and about as some of those barricades and some of the yellow tape has been moved. But now a lot of people are kind of just basically dealing with what happened last night and trying to figure out what the plans are. In fact, with that game tonight now being postponed to tomorrow, a lot of people are having to decide, are they going to stay for the game tomorrow, or are they going to, try to get out of town? So it's been iffy on either side. And I actually found some Georgia fans here. And I mean, guys, this has been a hard decision for you guys to try to figure out, do you stay or do you leave?
That's what we're trying to figure out right now. Just trying to, call the airline. We're working on the hotel, just trying to figure out if we want to stay or not. And he knows people that were here, obviously, from the university too. So, I mean, it's tough.
Did you guys have any friends that were out and about during that time frame?
I did. I think it's just awful. I mean, as students and even as fans, we come to support our team, our school, and we can't even have a fun night out without, something horrible like this happening. It's just awful. It makes me sick, upset. I mean, I'm supposed to come back here in 2 weeks. I'm supposed to party on that street. It's ridiculous. I mean, we got to do something about it. I don't really know what we should do. I don't know what we can do. Like, it just sucks, and I feel so awful for all the families impacted. I mean, just everyone. It's awful. It really is.
It really makes you think twice about things sometimes.
It really does. I mean, you just got to appreciate, who you're with, who you love. Just tell your family. I mean, everyone. You never know. You never know. I mean, people were out for New Year's Eve, and the next thing you know, there's 15 people dead on the street. It's awful. It's just awful. It really is. Nothing else to say.
Yeah, and I mean, did any of your friends, or is everyone okay that you know?
That I know, my close friends, I'm blessed enough to say that they are okay. But my girlfriend's best friend is in the hospital. I mean, she was shot in the liver. It's just awful. It's awful. I mean, I can't. There's no other word to describe it. It's sickening. It's something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. I mean, it needs to be done. That's all I can say.
Do you mind if I give you a hug? I am so sorry about this. I really am. No, I know this has been hard for everyone, whether they were here or not. I mean, this is going to be an impact for people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thankfully, we called it a night last night at 1 a.m. after they dropped everything down with this, I guess, whatever that symbol's called.
Totally. Yes.
Yes. So they
I
dropped
was
that.
there last night too.
And then, we went home, back to the hotel around 1. So fortunately we weren't there, but, our hearts go out for the people that were impacted. And, one thing we were talking about was just, frankly, just keeping about our lives. We can't let terrorists get it, make us make changes, right? Like, we have to keep going and doing things that represent our way of life. And that's what I was telling these guys. I don't really want to go. Like, I want to stay and go and do the things that we do and take pride in, the things that we are able to do as Americans. So, I just don't want them to take advantage of us like this. It's awful, but we have to move on.
For sure. And I mean, just being out here and about, obviously there's a lot of law enforcement. Yeah. People are looking out for each other. I think even more now, more people are a little aware.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I've been getting texts. We've all been getting texts from family and friends asking, what we're doing. Are we okay? And, are we in the hotel? Are we staying away? Like, no, we're out and about. I mean, and there's plenty of people out, just doing their everyday thing. So.
And so if that game is, if you guys are able to move the flights and stuff, you guys are going to stay for the game?
I think that's our plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can arrange everything. Yeah.
And I mean, you're hoping obviously your team wins, right?
Yes. Yeah. Go Dogs.
Yeah.
Go Dogs.
Well, again, I'm so sorry that you guys had to experience this. New Orleans is a beautiful place. And
I'm sure first time here.
It's your first time here.
Yeah. It's our first time to this, this great city. And, we've enjoyed it thus far up until, with the events of last night. Yeah. So.
I'm hoping they can get things under control, and hopefully y'all's game can keep on moving forward. Obviously, the most important thing, those people that lost their lives and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hearts and prayers and everything go out to the people impacted. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Get some good food here while you're here, and just breathe, okay? You know what I mean? Thank you so much for talking with us and sharing y'all's story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and guys, we just continue to hear these stories of people just caring about one another and just wrapping their arms around each other. A lot of these people, we don't know each other. We had people from last night all across the country and even the world coming here for New Year's, coming here for the Sugar Bowl, just trying to, you know, enjoy the new year, ring in the new year on the right foot forward. And unfortunately, a lot of people's worst nightmare happened this morning. And I think a lot of people are going to be impacted by this for quite some time. So I'm going to continue to start talking to people. We're going to be switching out in just a bit, but yeah, guys, everyone please stay safe, and we'll keep you guys updated here on air and online at WDSU.com.
All right, Cassie, thank you. Just the reality kind of sitting in. You go out for New Year's, you try and tell people to take all the precautions, do all the things. Don't drink too much, stay in a group, you know, make sure you don't carry too much money, don't be distracted, don't do all the things to ensure your personal safety, and something like this happens.
Yeah,
on
you
Bourbon
don't really
Street.
tell your loved ones, prepare for a terror attack in the heart of the French Quarter
Never
in New
imagine.
Orleans.
Let's check in now with our field anchor team, Randy Russo and Sala Kim, for the latest there.
Yeah, you know, you talk about doing everything right, Gina. You know, law enforcement was doing a lot of right things too. We had an increased police presence here for all the Sugar Bowl fans who were in town. You had officers stationed at every corner, including state troopers. And so everybody thought that their plan was good and was safe. And unfortunately, when you have someone that has such deep evil in their hearts and they decide, hey, I want to kill people today, it's hard to stop that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that Cassie was talking about with those fans is, and we've heard that from a lot of fans here too, is that they really want to still be able to move forward and experience New Orleans. Some of the folks that we've talked to still plan on going to the game tomorrow. They're again
With a little
trying-
anxiety, but
with a
they
little
do want
anxiety,
to go
but
and
they're
want to
just
enjoy
trying
the rest of the
you know,
city.
figure out their flight situation, the hotel situation. There's a lot of variables right now. But again, it's just so hard whenever you see this behind you and you know what happened just about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, and you talk about law enforcement, Randy, and about it, security being beefed up. I mean, I have never seen so much police presence out here, but no doubt because we had Sugar Bowl this weekend and we're getting ready for Super Bowl, you know, there have been so many resources allocated to the French Quarter, and for all the safety reasons, all security and police presence are so ubiquitous and rampant out here and robust that you are right. It was hard to prevent such a tragedy and such evil like this. But even you heard Senator Cassidy speak today and Senator Kennedy talk about the federal dollars and resources and how they're going to provide every help and assistance possible, just federally, locally, and even statewide, to help solve this case. Again, you heard officials say that there may be other accomplices or potentially another suspect out there. So they were urging the public, if you know anything, you heard anything, please come forward. The number they gave was 1-800-CALL-FBI. But, you know, they're going to be scouring the area, not only for evidence as the investigation continues here for another 48 hours, but also going through and sifting through every camera. You know, so many people have cell phones these days. They're going to be asking for photos, videos, and cameras and surveillance footage from this area. So it is going to be a long road ahead for this investigation to be completed, but also a long road ahead when it comes to the recovery of these victims, as everyone is now just pouring in with emails and text messages of praying for Louisiana and the city of New Orleans. You know, in circumstances like this, I am going to use the word resiliency lavishly. We are resilient, and the resolve to solve this case, as you heard officials talk about today.
Yeah, and it's also going to be really hard for the folks here on Bourbon Street. Right now, again, it's going to be closed, as Ella mentioned, probably for the next 48 hours is what we're hearing. A lot of folks are probably not going to be down on Bourbon Street tonight, tomorrow, maybe even during the weekend. It's kind of a stigmatic place for a lot of folks at this point because of what just transpired at 3:15 this morning. Additionally, with that, we also heard from some city leaders earlier this morning talking about the need to go beyond just bodies in the street, and not figuratively in this case, but in terms of like, instead of just your intelligence, your intel, to be able to stop these evil masterminds before they can even get to this point of driving down Canal Street, jumping onto a curb, plowing down Bourbon Street. And here's the thing, they didn't get far. They ran into that lift in just the next block, but this was a very calculated attack, unfortunately. And the real tough thing to really come to grips with is that there were so many young people who were out there ready to celebrate their teams, your Georgia fans, your Notre Dame fans, people of that nature who are just here to celebrate our city, celebrate their teams, making it to this point to play in the Sugar Bowl. We've got 9 decades here in the city of New Orleans with the Sugar Bowl. We've never, ever had an incident like this happen in such a prolific weekend. When
Yeah.
you've got so many people in town, you're celebrating New Year's Eve, you're celebrating a fresh start, and something like this happens. And again, you're seeing some officers kind of come underneath the crime scene tape, this crime scene tape that you're looking here, some National Guard members walking there along Bourbon Street as well. So you still have a lot of police activity out here right now.
Yeah, such a dark day here in the city of New Orleans in the French Quarter on the first day of 2025. And just to set the scene for you, you can see it is still an active scene, crime tape looped all over the area, and you still see a lot of trash out there, but a lot of crime scene evidence that investigators are sifting through and scouring the neighborhoods for surveillance footage or any information that they can get. But the increase in the amount of people and tourists I've seen, Randy, the last couple of hours we've been out here, the amount of media presence that has doubled since we've been here about 2 or 3 years ago goes to show the eye is watching the city. I mean, every single part of the nation is watching New Orleans, and they're sending their crews out here. So we are definitely, on the map, hopefully for all the good reasons as we anticipate the Super Bowl. But right now you can see just tragic day unfolding here on New Year's Day. But the businesses out here on Canal Street, we are right here on the corner of Canal Street and Bourbon, right towards St. Charles. And you can see there is a little bit of hustle and bustle with people and tourists out here. We also ran into a couple of friends we know, and they said this was supposed to be just a regular day where they come out and celebrate New Year's Day right here.
You patronize a restaurant.
That's right.
Spend your money here. I mean, this is a tourist. This is a big tourist day for the city of New Orleans, and a lot of businesses are going to be losing some much needed dollars this time of year because of so many closures. And you're right, Stella, a lot of media out here from not just here in the country, but we've got a worldwide presence on us right now.
Yes, we talked to even tourists moments ago, Randy. We met friends from New Zealand saying they had an eerily similar situation happen in New Zealand just a day ago, and she was also in law enforcement, so she knows what it takes to solve cases like this, an act of terror. And so she went here to offer her condolences and just to kind of stand in solidarity with us here. We had Nikki and Tina from New Zealand, and they're here to celebrate New Orleans, and they talked a little bit about the impact this would have potentially, to the economy and the tourism industry. Of course, we are a hub of tourism here in New Orleans. This is a big tourist area. And so unfortunately, we start off the new year on a dark note here in New Orleans with a terror attack being investigated with the FBI being the lead agency.
Yeah, but so many different people and stakeholders involved in this. Again, we're going to keep our eyes out here, hopefully talk to some folks from both Notre Dame and Georgia who are now trying to figure out what to do next. They were planning on going to a game tonight. That's not happening for them. So we're going to send things back over to Gina and Travers in the studio.
Eerie seeing Canal Street in crime tape like that, and still a crime scene. Bourbon Street still a crime scene. Lots of the streets downtown, the major arteries, thoroughfares, tourist attractions all shut down.
And look, you saw that behind Randy and Sulla just now. So much media from around the country because there's so much media in town for the Sugar Bowl right now. I mean, you're talking almost every station from the Indiana area, from Indianapolis, which is a large market, and then you've got the Georgia media from Atlanta and all of those affiliates in Savannah and other markets there, as well as ESPN and the networks here covering the Sugar Bowl, and now they're covering, tragically, this terror event.
And we talked about a lot of the streets shut down. Let's go to Kelly Brown with more on that and how it may impact you. Kelly.
Yeah, that's right, Gina. Well, as this investigation continues, we're definitely seeing some traffic conditions changing in and around the downtown area, specifically in the French Quarter. If you do have to travel in that area, there are a number of closures that could affect your commute. Of course, if you can avoid the area, but we know many people cannot. There are lots of hotels in and around that area. I'll show you some of our closures that we're dealing with right now. As the investigation is unfolding, Bourbon Street remains an active crime scene, so it is completely closed as of right now, from Canal Street to Dumaine, also from Royal to Dauphine, closed. Both sides of Canal Street closed from Claiborne Avenue to Convention Center Boulevard. Definitely avoid that area. However, we are expecting some heavy pedestrian foot traffic. Now, I did speak with NOLA Ready as well as NOPD, DOT. All hands are on deck to sort of make this area a much safer place. DOTD setting up a safety perimeter tomorrow for tomorrow's game. Perdido, LaSalle, and Poydras closed. So keep that in mind if you are traveling, and maybe make some precautions or take some extra routes to prevent any heavy traffic in and around that area. For now, I will send it back to you guys.
All right, Kelly Brown, thank you very much for those traffic impacts as it's 3 o'clock right now. If you are just joining us, we have been on air all day for extended coverage of the terror attack that unfolded on the streets of New Orleans just about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, here is what we know. A lot of information coming in. Just after 3:15 a.m., a man named Shamsud Din Jabbar intentionally drove a white truck down Bourbon Street. He went around a police cruiser. He killed 10 people. He injured 35. He then stalled out or stopped. He got into a gun battle with NOPD officers. He was shot and killed on the scene. 2 of those NOPD officers were shot and injured.
That's right. Governor Landry has given an update. He's issued a state of emergency. He was going to do this anyway tomorrow, but he did it today. Here is a look at the suspect, 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar. We do know that he is a U.S. citizen, was raised in Texas, has some type of military background, but he is the suspect who got into the firefight with police, who was shot and killed on Bourbon Street. He is the man the FBI was investigating in connection to the terror attack. Also looking into the possible connection of 3 men and a woman placing explosive devices around the French Quarter. That is something else that that law enforcement officials are exploring right now. Listen, we have team coverage of this terror attack. We've been in breaking news mode all day. We have our reporters and our field anchors fanned out across the city covering this from every angle.
Before we go back live to our field anchors and all of our crews, we do have a lot of video that came into the newsroom. If you are just joining us, or if you are continuing to keep it here for the most up-to-date information, we want to show you a piece of video. It was taken from Canal Street. You're going to see it right here. We should warn you, it is very graphic. We have blurred a lot of it out. On top of blurring a lot of it out, this is actually not it. Let's get to the other video. This is the shooting afterwards, after shots rang out with that shootout. We'll let you look at this one first. But this was the shooting. This is the video that we are talking about here. That is the white truck that Din Jabbar was in right there. You see it. It makes a turn onto Bourbon Street and then rapidly accelerates. And that is when 10 people were killed and 35 others were injured.
And we're talking about as it made contact with people. If you listen to the natural sound in the video, it appears that the driver hit the accelerator to, increase the force at which that vehicle slammed into people. We are learning more about the victims. We do know one, a teen from Mississippi, another, a 28-year-old from Lafayette, possibly another person, a man from Baton Rouge that we're still working to nail down. But all of this is unfolding as the FBI is still trying to piece together exactly what happened and who all was involved.
Critical piece of information here. The suspect, Din Jabbar, had an ISIS flag on his truck. That is going to be key to this investigation, it seems, from the FBI to find out if he was radicalized as a member of ISIS with that flag on the back of his pickup truck.
Let's check in with Aubrey Killian, who has been following the situation all day at UMC. Aubrey, what can you tell us?
Hey there, Gina. So about an hour or so ago, I told you about a family that was desperately trying to find their son. They actually pulled up right behind me and asked where could they find some parking. They didn't want to talk on camera. They weren't ready, obviously. They did get some parking, and I checked in with them a couple minutes ago. Unfortunately, the family that was searching for their son, hoping to find him alive here at UMC, they just got the word that their son did not make it and has passed away in this horrific terror attack. It's something that you can't even really think of. Imagine a loved one losing them on New Year's Day right here in New Orleans on Bourbon Street behind me. Here at UMC, the hospital ramp is kind of empty at this moment. But no question, it's been a tough day for New Orleans. And we spoke with Council President Helena Moreno about this as well. She went into the hospital this afternoon. Here's what she had to say when she went inside.
I came over to University Medical Center because I have a friend who is looking for a friend of hers. And so when I was brought in through the emergency department, they took me down to a conference room that is full of different friends and family members who are looking for loved ones who are not in any of the hospitals at this time, but their loved ones were on Bourbon Street last night. And so they're trying to figure out any type of information. The friends and family of 3 young men who I talked to, say that they're very concerned. At least one of them said that their loved one's phone is still being pinged on Bourbon Street.
And if you are trying to find a loved one that you cannot get in contact with, there's a number you can call. It's 504-539-3266. I spoke with EMS today again, and they said patients were taken to UMC, Toro, East Jeff, Ochsner, and Ochsner Baptist. They all received patients. The bulk of the patients are here at UMC. There's also 2 police officers that were wounded. I am told they are expected to be okay, but no question, a very busy and devastating day here at UMC, but they have been working around the clock. Guys, back to you.
All right, Aubrey Killian, you've been there all morning long. Obviously, a very challenging time and a very challenging assignment, seeing all those people coming there, like Councilmember Helena Moreno said, looking for their loved ones, hoping and praying that they are at a hospital like UMC.
All right, we have some new video into the newsroom. Take a look at this, the moments that all of this was unfolding. We can see everybody scrambling in response after the truck apparently was plowing down Bourbon Street. You can just see a mass scramble at that time. You can hear something happening in the background, and all the NOPD officers, you can see them running toward whatever the incident was. We now know the incident was a terror attack.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of state troopers right there, too. We know that they have Troop NOLA. There were more than 60 troopers, and it looks like, just based on their uniforms, it looks like it's a combo, don't you think, Gina? NOPD and state troopers. But they're running down Bourbon. They're going from the Esplanade side. They're running towards Canal. That would be because they probably heard gunshots or the truck or both, and they're running into the action right there. But this, I believe, that looks like it's right about the 500 or 600 block of Bourbon Street, everything going down right around the 100 block of Bourbon Street. That's near, I think, the old Chris Owens right there.
Now let's listen to a witness describe what happened.
Apparently he's coming up all onto the sidewalk and all that, but by that time we had already made it inside the divot, or is what I thought. Until once we get inside the divot and the car passes, I turn around to like look who's all in here, because it was supposed to be 3 of us. I turn around to look who's all in here, and I don't see my friend. And I just start screaming and yelling, and I'm like, nah, where are you? And I turn and I look in the street, and her right leg is flipped like horror movie style over her back, and it's just blood, and like it was just blood. And I turned to look down the street, and there's just bodies littered throughout the entire street. Like I kid you not, like broken bones, legs, necks, and it's just all down the street. People just sitting there bleeding, bleeding.
Unimaginable, especially for a young person to, or anybody really, to witness and see and be involved in such a chaotic scene as it unfolded on the streets.
So we got new information from the FBI, the mayor, the governor, Senator John Kennedy, Congressman Troy Carter. Let's take a listen to NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick, what she had to say about the terror attack in the city of New Orleans.
Approximately 400 officers in the French Quarter. And as we know, this is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil. And when we face evil, we have a choice. We can run in fear, or we can indeed stand in strength. In a time of crisis, people are looking for leadership. You are looking at the leadership. And I promise you, as the chief of police of this city has been tried by fire before. But fire purifies. Fire makes things stronger. We have a plan. We know what to do. We are going to get these people. There is a path forward. Very pleased that we will be back to having a wonderful game tomorrow night. New Orleans police have proven their ability to make the city safer. Just 2 years ago, we were the murder capital of America. Today, from that time 2 years ago, we have driven our murder rate more than 50% down. So we have a track record. But this is different because it's terrorism. Now, I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners. You're fabulous, and we appreciate the partnership. But last night, 3 of our officers engaged this terrorist who shot at them. 3 of the officers returned fire. Those officers did not run in fear. I liked what the mayor said this morning. New Orleans police and all law enforcement is built. We are built for dealing with evil, with things that would cause others to be in fear. But instead, our officers, and last night, NOPD particular, stood strong. They did not run. They did kill the terrorist. We have 2 officers indeed who received gunfire. They will be okay. We have personally gone to see them. But this is leadership for you. And I promise, as the chief of police of this fantastic city, that I will be strong and firm and fearless.
And Kirkpatrick talking about the cooperation of law enforcement agencies, but also talking about the job that her rank and file, the men and women of the NOPD running toward the perceived danger at the time that it was happening, and how 3 of the officers engaged the suspect. We do know the suspect was killed in that exchange of gunfire. 2 of those officers were injured in the line of duty.
And look, Ann Kirkpatrick has worked in a fair amount of cities. She's been a chief in Oakland, but she has worked for the FBI. She has worked all over. Very rarely, as we talked with our security expert, Mike Kahn, during our coverage throughout the day, very rarely does anyone have to deal with a quote-unquote terror attack on U.S. soil. We've dealt with mass shootings. We've dealt with major crime issues. But when you talk about a terrorist attack on U.S. soil, they are few and far between right here. And so I think Ann Kirkpatrick is just trying to lay out what these officers on the street were dealing with. And as you saw in that video, they ran towards the problem and the chaos, and they opened fire and engaged the suspect and killed him.
Let's check in now with Cassie Sherm. She has been talking to people who were out and about downtown. The last group of people she talked to, they said they were going to try and stay. They were in town for the Sugar Bowl. They're trying and stay and see if they can go to that game tomorrow. Cassie, what's the latest where you are?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of mixed emotions here downtown. You know, I've been talking to a lot of people who are not from the area. And so, you know, you got a lot of tourists in the area. Some people saying they're staying, so other people saying they're going. But we haven't really talked to a lot of locals that have been in this area as well, because Canal Street, you're not usually seeing as many locals. But I will tell you, there are people here that are just coming to pay their respects to what happened, because when it comes to New Orleans and we have things like this, people come together, and we know that all too well, especially when it comes to Katrina and Doug. I mean, you heard on the news this morning that this happened, and you just wanted to come out here.
Well, I woke up, you know, I went to bed late last night because of New Year's. I went to bed like at 12:30, 1 o'clock. I woke up this morning at about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock this morning to this. Now, I used to work on Bourbon Street. I was a bouncer and a doorman. So I've worked through Mardi Gras. I've worked through Super Bowls. I've worked through, you know, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And I mean, like, I was coming down here for a job, you know, that I normally work at, and it was postponed. And literally walking down here to pay my respects, like walking down Canal Street, it's just like my stomach was turning. Like, I cannot believe something like this would even happen in New Orleans. So I saw some of the footage that you guys showed about how the truck got, into Canal Street and then on to Bourbon. And I'm just like, I'm just dumbfounded. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I've seen quite a bit on Bourbon Street. This is just unmanageable, unthinkable. And I mean, I feel bad for all the people that lost their lives. They were coming down here to have fun, to spend a little time in New Orleans. And I hope this doesn't put a bad image on New Orleans itself, because this is not what we're all about.
No, not at all. I mean, I know you're getting emotional too, because
Yeah.
I mean, this hits us all really hard.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, it's like, I feel bad for these people, because now there's mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. They lost somebody. For what? Because somebody wanted to be a stupid jerk? I mean, it's stupid. I mean, it's unfathomable.
I mean, you've never seen anything like this after working on Bourbon Street either, right?
No. I mean, the worst I've ever seen in all the years that I did work on Bourbon Street was a simple, basic fight. Maybe somebody getting hit with a bottle or something like that, I've never seen guns and weapons and everything. I mean, it's, I heard earlier that they're thinking about making it a pedestrian walkway. And with all the crap that's going on these days, I think they should do that. 24 hours a day. I don't think they should allow cars on Royal Street or Bourbon Street at all. Because I've driven down Royal Street during the day, and I've had people cut in front of me, and they don't give two hoots that I'm a car. So I think for the safety of the people, the pedestrians, and the tourism, and the locals, I think they just need to, like you guys said earlier on the news, they need to make it a park. Those two streets, no vehicles whatsoever. Yeah, cross over Bourbon or cross over Royal, but physically driving up and down, no, I don't think they need it.
I mean, as a New Orleanian, to see something like this in our city here, I mean, what do you even say to people after seeing something like this?
Well, what I told people before this happened, I said, when you go on, I always tell people, look, if you got a family, you don't like crowds, when the sun goes down, go in. I tell them, because it gets crazy. After the sun goes down here in New Orleans, it gets crazy on them streets. 90%, I'd say about 90% of everybody that's out there is usually under the age of 30. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, it's nothing but bad news. And all the gun violence we've had on Bourbon Street, all the stabbings, shootings. I mean, it's just getting crazy. So I always tell, if you have a family, you have kids, yeah, go down there during the day, but get the heck out of there when the sun goes down.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
to pay your respects to these people and for caring so much.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate
Not a
that.
problem, ma'am.
There's been a lot of frustrations and emotions from everyone here on the scene, just even across the city. And so I think this is the overall message. Our hearts are broken for these people. And I think now is the time we just all have to come together as one. So I'm going to send it back to you guys, and we're going to try to give you guys more updates as soon as they come. Reporting here from the French Quarter, I'm Cassie Sherm. Back to you.
Guys, thank you all for being here watching. We're at 3 hours on this live. This is live reporting. Live reporting from New Orleans, Louisiana, where a crazy person, where a person that had evil in their heart decided to make a deliberate act, a conscious act of harming other people, unaliving other people on New Year's Eve in the middle of Bourbon Street by taking his white pickup truck, running over people that are celebrating, bringing in the new year. Okay, guys? And my prayers go out to the families that's been affected by this horrible, horrible crime attack. And thank you, Black Titanic, for coming into the live. Thank you so much. And Sweet Tea, thank you. Sizzling Bunny, thank you for being here as well. And Sweet Tea, Renita, in Hepper, thank you all for being here. And for everyone that was down in the bushes, I do want to thank you all for being here and everything. So we're going to go ahead and close this live. Anything new, anything that comes up more about the story, I will, about the tragic accident. No, it's not an accident. Terrible incident, terrible attack. I will be bringing it to you because this is no accident. This is done on purpose. This person meant for this to happen. And so many people are affected by this. Not just the people that's unalive, not just the people that was injured in this attack and their families, but you got other people that was affected as well. So I do want to thank you all. So any updates, I will be bringing you that information throughout the day. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close this live so you all can go get you something to eat. And when you see me post again about bring up another live on this, please make sure you hit the like button when you're coming in. All right, guys. And thank you all so much. And enjoy your new year. This is a new year 2025. And I hope everybody enjoy that new year. And I will be putting up that trigger warning because some of the information was a little hard for some people. All right. But make sure you hit that like button. All right. And subscribe to the channel so you can get the latest information on this terrible, terrible scene. And everything I showed you was live coverage. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and be closing it for now. All right. And I'm just so sad about it. All right. Y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.